Rolling here. Wow, it's been a good long minute since we've had one of these podcast experiences, and it is just the right time to be doing this. It's a wonderful Tuesday afternoon here in Los Angeles, and I'm here with my good friend John Allen as we proceed on our video shaman re-entry into a conversation that really never ends, but we're making it official this time. John, how you doing, man?
Alex, I'm doing great. Thanks again for organizing this. Re-entry, I like that. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, because it's never over or stopped. It's always going. We just hop on and hop off from time to time. But it's good to be back doing this. It's a beautiful afternoon where you are. It's a beautiful evening where I am in Milwaukee. As I was telling Alex before, this is right around prime time temperature weather for Milwaukee is end of August through October. So yeah, it's great here, and I'm excited to talk about whatever we talk about. So far, they've gone so good, but yeah, it's been a couple of months, I think, since we've done our last one. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff's been going on too. I mean, I just moved up here to Los Angeles from Oceanside, and that was a pretty big move. I mean, probably since I moved back home to my parents, was trying to envisioning of moving back up here, and it was trying to find the right time. And I don't want to rush into it. And that's probably going to segue into something that we were talking about just before we started this, about how we're making these moves into the next phase or whatever, but we're just being mindful about the reasons why we're doing it, and especially in light of all the projects that we've been developing for so long, and the visions or plans that we have for our career and just creativity, all that stuff. So yeah, it took a while, but finally here. It feels great. And I just wanted to comment too. I realized this a moment ago that we both have American flags behind us.
yeah, nice. What's yours got on? Oh, is that a Native American riding a horse?
Yeah, Spirit
Nice.
Rider, as they're called.
Spirit Rider. Yeah, mine's just the classic American flag back there. Just happens to be hung in an unorthodox fashion, as you
Yeah,
might say,
yeah.
upside down.
Country in distress, bro.
Country in distress.
Yeah, but so we were talking before we started the cast here about the previous times that we lived together, about 8 years ago now, which is totally wild. It's amazing to think how far 2012 was ago in the past. But when we moved there from Venice, we had high ambitions, lofty goals of what we wanted to accomplish, and we called for our listeners or viewers, we called that warehouse that we stayed at, we called the warehouse the Here House. We'll play on words in the sense that that's kind of what we always done. We've always been trying to see things in a different way, find a more creative way to communicate things. And it was a great experience, but it didn't really work out. A lot of reasons why. I would say number one, we bit off more than we can chew, having included with the two of us, four other roommates. So there were six people altogether. That was a big undertaking, which I could say was very naive of me to think that it was gonna, I remember telling people that were asking, "Oh, you're moving in with five other people? That sounds crazy." And I'd be like, "No, no, no. I know all these people. I would never move into a place with just some random people." And then sure enough, as soon as we get in, things start to unravel, and we had to find new roommates almost instantly after moving in, which,
Yeah.
no regrets. It was a great learning experience, but in terms of our goals, it didn't really, it didn't fulfill the goals. It was almost like, dude, in the Matrix when Neo is about to run and jump off from one building top to the other. And he's just like, free your mind. And then runs and jumps and that's kind of like, to me, what the Here House ended up being.
Yeah, we tried to like talk ourselves into it and convince ourselves, that we were doing the right thing, and it seemed like the right thing. And with me, you, Mayor, and Jeremy, it seemed like, fail proof. You know, we were just like, we had all the right ingredients, and then mixing in the other people in there just seemed like the right thing to do, and we were finally getting the space. And then yeah, it was pretty evident immediately that Shiv was just like, whoa, what the, no, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. But we kept doing that, like, free your mind. No, we're good. Free your mind. We got this. And then more shit would happen and more shit would happen. And then, inevitably, eventually, it was just like, oh yeah, we fucked that up. We did a lot right to get it, you know, we made it happen. But then once we made it happen, nothing happened, or like very little happened. And I always remember your dad, like, in retrospect, I think it was after we had moved out, he was just like, yeah, you guys were doing that wrong. Like, he could just see, like, you could just see the whole time. He's just like, oh yeah, this is going to be fucked up. But yeah, good job. He's like, oh, come help you guys out. You know, he did all this stuff, and he was so great, and he was up there all the time. And it was just so funny afterwards. He was just so candid. He's like, yeah, you were doing it wrong. And we're like, yeah, we were.
Yeah.
So we're trying to be mindful of that now, because that was the second time that I moved out there. I mean, it's been different for you because you moved out there with your parents, or you moved out to California with your parents, and you've been up and down a little bit more than I have. But that was like the second incarnation, and that was like the one. You know, you were living in Venice, and I stayed on your couch, and we're like, this is what we're doing. We're making the here house, and got all these big ideas and plans, and you know, like you said, it wasn't one thing. It was at least 100 different things as to why it didn't work out. But it didn't work out. And we all kind of agreed on that. It was like a general dissolve, like an agreed upon, you know, everyone, there were fights and stuff throughout the thing, but at the end, everyone was just like, yeah, this is over. You know, it was very cordial. It was very gentlemanly, and everyone was just like, yep. All right. Yeah. Well, nice knowing you. We had great experiences and crazy stuff, but.
And, you know, it's like things happen for a reason too, right? Because it was, I mean, and even in those discussions when we were bowing out of the here house, becoming a warehouse again, there were discussions about, well, should we stay? Or like maybe some of the roommates were saying maybe they want to stay and they can take over. And it didn't work out, but like we were saying, but then it was maybe a year later, something like that. Do you remember the article? It was on Facebook. Somebody posted like warehouses in downtown, and just the complete fire hazards and the irresponsibility of the landlords just kind of renting these places out that just not fit to live. And it's like the place could go up in a fireball just so easily. And it was the picture of our warehouse.
And they mentioned our warehouse specifically because there was that fire in like Oakland, I think it was, that like, people died, and that was like, that made them kind of look at all these new places that I'm sure all these like Ben Neiman's were, you know, converting old warehouses on the sly into let little fucking idiot film students or art kids, you know, with money, like come in and just take advantage of them. But that was, it literally was a picture of our building, and it mentioned 931. Was it 931 or
931 East Pico?
931 East Pico. Yeah, and I was just like, we were like, what? I mean, we knew it was like,
it was sketch. Crazy. I mean, there were so many reasons why it was sketch. Like the fact that they didn't have a bathroom. They had to build a bathroom. We didn't have a kitchen. We basically just had a sink and a hot plate and a microwave, and I think maybe a toaster oven, a dresser as our countertop. So it's like, I mean, just to think, if we had stayed and then have had to have been forced out of there, what kind of a different situation that might have been. So that's good that it worked out that way. But then, you know, stepping forward with the next phase of moving to California, because that was technically my second time. Like when I moved up to, I would consider move to LA. First time I moved to LA was in college, same with you. And then the second time was after college, moving to Venice in 2010 on 4th of July. And then that's like when you came out, and eventually we moved to the warehouse. So both of us, the third time. And with, we were talking before about the name, the Here House, and how clever that was, and very appropriate for what kind of plans we had for that place and just the way we saw things. Question is what is the function or the name of where we're moving next? And we're talking about an office. I like that. I mean, something like that. It's definitely going to be more work oriented.
But now that we're thinking about it, now that we're talking about it, I feel like those, like the first place was the house. Like we were looking for a house when we moved out of the dorms, and we got the house, and then it didn't really become the house until we made it the house while we were living in it. It's not like we were searching for a place. We got like, gotta find the house, gotta find the house. We were like, we just gotta find a place to live. And then eventually it was like, that's the house. Like after we lived in there and we made it our own and brought all those energies in and did all the stuff that we did there, it was like, that's the house. So then the next evolution was the warehouse, but then the here house. And I'm thinking because necessarily the first place, so I'm moving back to LA in October of 2020. And we're going to get an apartment, Alex and I, but at this point, we're not expecting it to be a mansion or it to be a warehouse or even an actual house. Like it might just be a classic LA 2-bedroom apartment somewhere, with like white walls. And I just like imagine like Corey's apartment in West Hollywood is like the most generic LA apartment I can think of, just like those kind of blinds and the white walls and the floors, like everything was just what you need, and nothing really more, in a decent size, not tiny, but not massive. So I'm thinking maybe we should name the third part of the journey rather than the place we're going to be encompassing, or because wherever we are, that will be the third part of the journey. So like the apartment we move into might not be the place where the stuff happens, like we'll be there to reestablish ourselves and get back on track. But I feel like to like say that that's the domain that where the things are going to happen would be, I don't know, too strict, because because we always envision living in a cool place in Venice, right? And that could be the final form or the next big form. So maybe we should just have a name instead of like the house, or like the space that we're in is just like the mode that we're in, like the tier or the version, the third version of whatever our thing is. So it'd be more like ethereal and ambient than like physical, like a house or a big house. And then the here house is like, it's here, the house was just like a house. And now it's like here house is a here house, like right here. Yeah. So maybe we could be more something, not the opposite of that.
Like a satellite.
Oh, dude, that's it. Because that's constantly moving and it's reflecting. And it's just, that makes perfect sense, dude.
The satellite, yeah. And it could be something that we stay at, but then also something that we basically just refer to as a headquarters, almost like. And then, dude, that reminded me, I have a 5-year plan now.
Nice.
And it was first of all, it was Jeremy Aquilino that was mentioning that he had a 5-year plan. And I started realizing that that's a thing, people talk about like having a 5-year plan. But then I went and met with these guys that are close with Uncle Bruce. Uncle Bruce was in Colorado last month or earlier this month doing a TV show for Gaia TV. So like, basically, I think that'll be coming out in January, but it's like a 13-part series of biology, belief, and conscious evolution stuff. But when he was out there, he met up with these guys from Uplift. They're not from Uplift, but they worked with Uplift. There's this artist, musician, poet guy named Prince EA. Have you heard of him?
Don't think I have.
I'll send you some of his videos. And for anyone watching right now, definitely look up Prince EA. Prince EA letters. But Prince EA's got the production team that he does all of his videos and produces content for him. When Uncle Bruce was in Boulder, he met up with these guys and they had a blast. They like really like linked up well, connected on a lot of things. And Uncle Bruce called me up and said, you got to meet these guys. They live in relatively close to LA. They've got a little office and they basically are in business for themselves. And you guys would definitely connect. So when I was on my way back from Oceanside, bringing some things back up to LA, I stopped up at their office, which is in just south of Huntington Beach. And that's when it kind of clicked with me, like what this 5-year plan is, because these guys are about our age and it's 2 of them. They have their own production company, officialized, an office that they work from. It's not a huge office, but they share the space with this other guy that does media and coding stuff. They got a couple of computers. They have a number of consistent clients that they work with doing videos or going on site, interviewing people. ideas for like movies or TV shows they want to do. So very similar to what we've always talked about, but they actually have an office and they don't, and then they, they commute to work at the office. I started thinking how cool that would be to have an office dedicated for work, and then to be able to like have some sort of business clients. Like, I mean, all the stuff that I do could work at the office. Any of the projects that we're developing or people we work with that we want to go out and collaborate with, we have this office. We have like an LLC. Right. We've got the whole, like a bank account for the company.
Yeah.
And then having that separate from home was just like a really cool thing. And these guys are doing it. It was just in terms of a 5-year plan, that would be really cool if we were to eventually, once we launch the satellite and we can start doing some surveying of the land, we could find a location to plant our base, which could be an office.
Yes, dude, that's great. That's amazing. That makes so much sense. And it seems like a very, not that far away. Like a lot of our goals are very lofty and kind of up in the upper atmosphere, but that one seems like an attainable thing because you could do it definitely in steps, like just getting an LLC and then even starting a bank account and just going to the bank, spending a day at the bank and have them help you and set up account for this and that. Even if you put $500 in it and that's it, like that mentally is a massive thing. It's like, okay, now we have a company, and then we have, it just, I think it's in the same way of like dressing up. Like I like to, when I'm working on stuff, I'll put a tie on or a nice shirt, nice slacks, just makes me feel like I'm more professional and there's more motivation. Having an actual office, I feel like would be so much more motivating than, not to say living rooms are bad places to do work, but to have something separate like that, even if it is a room as big as your room or this room here.
Yeah.
A friend of mine is a very talented artist, and she just got her own separate space. It's a shared space, but she got her own studio separate from her apartment. And I'm just like, that's a great step. And I like referred to us when we held auditions for 7 years later, but it was in our fucking garage, and how like some people wouldn't come because it's like
sketchy.
Shady. Yeah. And then some people would hold auditions at the school and in like a real room. And I was like, that makes so much more sense. It's way more professional, and you just feel more professional. They feel more comfortable. And whereas, the idea of us starting our own business, our own, whatever you want to call it, but starting it out of our apartment and have people come over to our apartment, it's just kind of like, yeah, these guys aren't legit. But if you have, even it's like, oh, just meet us at the office, or I'll meet you at the office. And when we're at the office, it's that we're in that mode.
Yes.
Whereas at home, it's like kind of confusing because it's like, are we in work mode or are we in fuck around mode?
Yeah.
It's really easy to slip back and forth. It's like, well, I'll crack a beer real quick and then we could talk about it. Then all of a sudden we've each had 4 or 5 beers and we're sitting in the apartment. We're like, we're just, it's cool. But if we're at the office, it's like, all right, we'll make another pot of coffee. We'll do this, and then we'll have lunch, and then we'll do that, and then we'll leave and we'll go home, and we'll get all this stuff done at the office.
Yeah.
And you said these guys were around our age?
Yeah. Yeah. And dude, it was awesome, man. Yeah. You're going to meet them eventually, like when we come out here. But I met up with them, and we went out to lunch, and for the good couple hours, all we talked about was the Anunnaki, conspiracies, Uncle Bruce, like alternate realities. Showed him some of the synchrocosm videos, showed him some of the other videos that we've worked on, showed him Spoonception, and these guys were loving this stuff, man. And it's just, I was asking them, like, what's it like what are your work hours like? How much time do you spend at the office? And they said, we come in basically whenever we want. Some days we don't have anything to do specifically, but we just come to the office just to be here, just because we're more just like you were saying, more prone to stay productive when you're at the office. Mm-hmm. And I think that it was seeing that it was really exciting because I know that's something we could do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good, we should have, I like the 5-year plan a lot. Even if it is trendy, but it makes a lot of sense to think about it in that way. Most of us, like you said before, like the U.S. thinks about things in 5-year spans, or the GDP and stuff like that, the economy. We're in China, they think about things in 500-year spans. So to us, a 5-year plan would be a 500-year plan, relatively speaking. And I think it'd be great if we each had our own independently, and then collectively as the satellite group or whatever will be. And then if Mayor or Doyle wants to be involved in that, or I'm not even sure what Corey and Maddie are doing these days, or Jeremy, but I know those are all assets. Obviously, we want to bite off more than we can chew, like we've done before.
Right.
So starting with just the two of us would be a great thing, because it's always great to have at least one other person there. So you don't feel alone when you fuck up, but also feel like you can encourage each other that you are doing the right thing. And I think having a 5-year plan, that being part of it, having an office space, regardless of what the space actually is, but having a separate space, a professional space, would be a big step for us, but like a very attainable step.
Yeah. And like just seeing what the physical space that they had was probably the size, maybe like a little bit bigger than what my bedroom is. Yeah. Not that big. It was just a couple of desks, and like, What's that?
It almost doesn't matter how big it is, right? Unless it's bigger than a closet. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Right. But I was thinking, but like the warehouse, like maybe not necessarily like having this giant space that we get. Yeah, we look at all the stuff we could do in here. It's like, I'm sure we could do a lot of stuff in there, but that's we got to work up to that.
What?
I think that.
Look at all this space. Let's get like 8 couches. That's the first thing.
Yeah, we did good on that. Yeah. And doing it in baby steps too, like practical steps first. Like instead of what the warehouse, here house versions of ourselves would have done was like, you come out, first thing we do is we find an office, or like we get a place that we could do. It's instead of doing that, we get our satellite first, and we literally just maybe make the LLC, make an official business on paper for what we are, and then see where that takes us, and just kind of move closer into that direction.
Well, I think that would just having the business be official thing will be easier for us to click in and out of that mode, because then it'll be an actual thing that exists out there. It exists on paper. It exists on the computers. Professional people acknowledge this as an established business, regardless if it's active or inactive. It's like, okay, that exists. We are that. We are also John and Alex goofballs from outer space, but we're businessmen as well, and we can click into that mode if we need to, or when we want to, because we'll have created these personas. We can even come up with different personas for us, if that helps, like when we're more official, like I've always talked about, we've called Sky Chairman and this and that, but like referring to the West Wing, it's like part of the way things work there is because of the hierarchy and the names and the titles and keeping everything by the rules. And like when you're in here, you speak this way. Yeah, there's a lot of like old school leftover stuff from that, but like calling people Mr. Speaker of the House or Mr. President or Mr. Vice President, like instead of, even if it's your best friend, it's like, hey Don, it's like, no, I'm the senator from New York. Like it's having those kind of titles, I think, or even, we don't have to come up with weird, silly names, but I think even starting that, like compartmentalizing your brain, I think we could start that professional part, because I feel like we still, even though we have all the ideas, it's still very abstract in the route that we want to take.
Yeah.
And it's still very art studenty, film studenty, youthy, which is good, but we need to fragment into the professional side. And I think having a persona and having, like, even if when we went to the office, we didn't wear t-shirts or jeans.
It'd be like Mr. Rogers. When we get to the office, we take off our thing, we put on our like work blazer or our work cardigan, take off the shoes, put on the slippers, like literally have like our it's like going into like scientists going into one of those hazmat rooms. Like you go in, you put on the shit, you close the door, hit all the buttons, and then go into the office, having some sort of procedure that really, like you were saying too, it's, even though we're goofballs, it's ever since we've been working together, we've been developing a mythology about the world as we see it and our place in it. And that is super important. I think that's like one of the unique things about who we are and how we see the world and see each other and have fun with it. Because as much as we always want to have the balance of the business and the goofball, but then like if we do it right, those things will really work with each other and balance each other and incorporate with each other in a really cool way. So and make us even more excited to go there to be the work, because we're playing a role. We're playing the role of the versions of ourselves that are successful. Instead of saying we want to be successful in the future, we are being successful in the present. And even though, let's say we're not physically successful, but we have like, the place, any little ritual that we could do to encourage that type of thought and that type of feeling is totally the way to go about it.
Agreed. Well, yeah, it would be, mentally like rewiring our brain, and also like physically, I feel like Uncle Bruce would be like, yeah, there's evidence to support if you acted in that way and conducted yourselves in a way and made yourself believe. Like if we went in and we did our accounting every day, even if we only had $20 in our account, be like, okay, we got to check the accounting, check all the deposits and everything else. Okay, go through all that, and then it's just like, okay, we make that part of it, and then like, okay, we've sold this many, we could lie to ourselves for a while just to kind of like see this is what it would be like. Okay, we have the client meeting at 3:00 down in Soho. Is that a place? No, that's in New York, isn't it?
There is, yeah, I think there is
Soho in
there's
LA.
NoHo.
NoHo. Yeah. So, but just like tricking yourself,
Yeah.
into being professional. I think that's a very plausible thing, even though it's ridiculous. But
Fake it till you make it. It's
exactly.
like literally, it seems silly, but that's how the subconscious learns.
Right. And it's like, you are eventually a subconscious will be like, wow, yeah, these guys are successful. Let's give them more stuff to be
all right,
successful.
open the doors to more success, and then boom, it'll just like happen. Exactly. Like they guys believe this. All right, they're successful.
Oh yeah.
How'd they do it? I don't know.
Look at them. They're wearing suits. They're writing down numbers. They're making phone calls. Like, Jesus Christ.
They must be doing something important. These guys need more money. That's literally what's going to happen. And dude, I was thinking about the business part of it, because we obviously have so many ideas, so many potential ideas, projects, collaborators, different forums and ways to express these ideas. I think the three things that we could focus on are story, like script writing and developing, editing, like post-production, like creating videos, content, and then music. Having all three of those things focusing on. So like imagine a day in the office, we could help, like if you have a song you're doing, I can help you record the song, or we could be working on that. Or if we have a video that we want to produce, or we get an idea, or we talk to somebody, because if we have an office, or not just an office, but if we have a business, we could be more available to talk to people, not just like at a party. Hey, want to make a music video this weekend, or we should write something and film it. Like to have the business, it'd be more like, let's take this seriously. Come by the office. We'll go over the notes. We'll draw up the storyboards, and it becomes more real at that point. But I think those three things specifically would cover all the type of things that we could do to even generate, clients and income and all that type of stuff with those three things specifically.
I agree. And those three things aren't specific to, this or that. Like they can span a lot of different things. Like editing obviously could be a million different things, and music could be music for this or for that, or for the radio, or for somebody's short film, or for a commercial, or have like, even like find artists that are trying to, like vocalists or other people, and then like, just anything on that level.
Yeah.
And then obviously writing, like doing specs or polishing up stuff or this or that, or just like, I feel like, in the meantime, it would be great to just build up like a library of our stuff, right? Just to have stuff for when it happens, which is what I've been trying to do with scripts. But like for you, and you've made reels and stuff like that. And I feel like it would just be like, even if we didn't like those guys who have their office, if they didn't have anything to do that day, it's like just go in and just keep building and building and building the arsenal until somebody's like, well, what do you got? And it's like, well, we got 14 scripts over here. We got a bunch of editing cuts over here. We got ideas for short films and little bits of this. We got music for whatever you want over here. And just like, what do you need? We could just become like a library of stuff. And then whatever, like I remember, I think it was Wrigley, who, I don't know if they sold cigarettes initially, and then they sold gum as like an afterthought to it. But then the gum became more sought after and popular.
Oh,
So they just started focusing on the gum. So now everyone knows Wrigley for gum.
Right.
So it's just kind of like we will have a bunch of stuff, and then whatever people want is the thing that we'll focus on, right? It's like the demand is what keeps businesses in business.
Absolutely. And then with
who knows what other things will come up, because we've talked about like how great would it be if we could get paid to like come up with ideas, because we're idea guys. Like those are the things. If the two of us are one thing, it's idea guys. Like just coming up with stuff. We got a million ideas all the time, and that could just be like an idea bank, just fucking, all right, we got 10,000 ideas for a movie, a short film, whatever we have, like pick one out of a fucking hat. We got these things. Or if you want to develop an idea, come and we'll sit down and talk for 6 hours. And like we could generate income from doing that eventually,
Yeah.
You don't know. I don't think we don't know what it's going to be. That's going to be the thing. We'd like to think it's because of making mandala and, you being able to edit everything and make cool effects and like do videos for other people like Uncle Bruce. But I don't think we really know what the thing is going to be that.
Right. As long as it's like, I think having a spectrum of the like something like mandala that we want to put all of our passion and feelings and gusto into. But then there's also the things that we need, like if we were to run a business, to be able to sustain ourselves, to pay the rent of the office, support ourselves. And those things could be a lot. Also, and the other things is networking, is to have like a Rolodex, so to speak, of all the people that we know and what they do, so that when we're out there, just out in the world, out in the field, we'll be available to like make those connections.
Yeah.
So if somebody like you said, we find an artist and be like, oh yeah, you should really do this with your art. Oh, we'll produce your thing. Or we know somebody that you can talk to that can help bring you to the next level of things. And those types of things, I think just building that rapport with everyone we encounter, with ourselves. It's just planting those seeds, like tilling the soil, planting the seeds. Eventually something's going to come up.
Right. I agree. And unfortunately, I've realized that even though my job is socializing with people constantly all day as a server, like I've realized I'm not that great at networking. Unfortunately, I know there's room for improvement always, but that's one thing that I've realized in the recent times, is that I'm not that great of a networker. But I understand always the benefits of knowing somebody or having a good conversation with somebody or whatever, because it always helps to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, because that's what they say. That's how things happen in Hollywood, basically. But you're right. Like but that would be in business. So I don't know business John yet. So maybe he's a good networker. Once I find that persona of like, oh yes, I'm John. I represent this company with Alex Lipton, and we would like to speak to you over here in the hallway after your concert, and we have contracts drawn up.
Yeah, literally. Like that's what we're gonna be. We're basically Vincelli and Barnhart in the real world, in an alternate dimension.
I mean, that's always been the case, right?
Yeah, it is.
But now it's like we're having steps to.
Yeah, we could see ourselves literally being in that situation where we're at a concert, like a Kimber concert, and we are backstage for some reason with like VIP passes and in suits, having it's like literally having that exchange where it's like I tried to give you this binder a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now I think you're ready to. I think you're ready to read it now.
Like,
oh no, I already read it, and I was wondering. It's like, whenever we're gonna meet? It's like, oh, stop by the office and we'll draft up some storyboards.
Exactly.
It's got a nice ring to it. Stop by the office.
It does. It does, and I could see that happening. Their office is in Los Angeles somewhere. These
It's
guys,
in like Huntington Beach, so it's about like an hour, maybe an hour south.
right? We went. That was the beach that we went to when Patrick saved our lives, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes, that's right.
confirming. That's the only time I've been there, I think. So
I've been messaging with him on Instagram actually recently. Yeah.
really,
Oh yeah. He's
he has
talking about coming back out here to visit.
he has two kids now.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
lives. He still lives on back in the East Coast.
Yeah, Massachusetts, I believe. Um, I can't tell if he was talking about moving out here or coming just to visit, but I could just imagine the timing of that would work out where when you would come out here, Patrick's also out here. That would be like talk about the cycle of the ages going through a major renewal there.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I would be like overwhelmed. I think if to see that guy again because of the mythology behind him at this point. It's just
I know. Oh my God, so cool. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's almost Chris on the same level and Dalbo. It's like everyone in my head not seeing them. I mean, even Jeremy I haven't seen in so long. It's just the way that I think of these guys. They're all like titans in my head as fucking 21-year-olds.
Yep.
When we hung out, you know. So like I remember you saying this that you spoke to Jeremy a couple of years ago, or he at least said this to you a couple of years ago, where he wanted to get the band back together, and I think that is inevitable. And it will just be interesting to see when we're all in the same, at least in the same room again, you know.
And that reminds me too. Jeremy, last I talked to him, was explaining to me how he literally has a business. I think he might even have an office as well with another partner or whatever.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, doing something similar of just having editing office or producing, filming, you know, all that type of stuff. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, but going into business for yourself, that's like a pretty exciting concept. And to not have to settle for something that you don't want to do. It's like taking clients on, because we have the network, I think, already, just of associates, of people we know, acquaintances over the years, the type of crowds we've brushed shoulders with, or brushed elbows.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, I think that we could lean into that. We could lean into that world and have a better standing than if we were to just try to work under somebody else's, you know, big business or whatever.
Agreed. And I think that is kind of the trend of the people of our generation. It's like, instead of relying upon the happenstance and the mood of the boss on the day, or being in the right place at the right time, you know, and putting the diligent work in, which is like the classic thing, you know, you want to work your way up, you know, be a grip, and then you know, whatever, assistant director, whatever, however the fucking ladder goes, you know. It's like, that's the old way of doing it. It's the same thing with all the rest of working your way up in a company. But there's one way where I feel like I've been naive in saying, like, well, we'll just, instead of like working our way up like a regular ladder, we'll just come in from the outside on the top and, you know, beat the system and do our own thing. It's like there's a medium in between there, right? It's like, we'll be working under somebody, but it'll be us. We'll be working under ourselves. We'll be our own bosses, and we'll work our way up the way that we want to work up, or at least working our way through, instead of like playing somebody else's game. You know, like we can dictate the rules and dictate the success, and we know the steps that we would need to take based on the reality that we have set up, and the business that we have set up, and the goals that we have. It's like, well, when we get to here, then we get this and this and that, instead of being, you know, trying to get lucky all the time.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And even another thing, which we haven't said thus far, but would make a lot of sense, is if at this office, or even at our satellite, depending on where it would be, I'm not sure, but having like a podcast studio, like more professional with the microphones, that we could have guests come. I guess it makes sense at the office, like come by the office and we'll do a podcast, have guests come by, could potentially even have the whole sponsors thing. I'm sure we could figure out people that would like to, we could promote, that would then give us royalties or sponsorship money and stuff like that. We could promote their products, just basically doing what we're doing now, but developing it even further. And just the theme of of being present in this world, following your passion, pursuing your dreams, but also having fun with it. Like, the make shit up, take it very seriously podcast
Yeah,
type thing.
exactly. That has always encompassed everything that we have done and have aspired to do. More so what we've aspired to do, because we've made shit up. We've made a lot of shit up. We haven't taken it as seriously as we could, and I think that's the balance of this, right? Is what we're taking it a little bit more seriously now, and taking ourselves seriously so that other people take us seriously. I mean, we believe that we have what it takes to get the job done and become successful, but in this business, we need other people also to believe that as well. Unfortunately, we are still reliant upon other people until we become billionaires.
Right.
We need people to believe in us, so we need to take ourselves more seriously. So they're like, okay, these guys are legit. There's something I can invest in. Like we're coherent. We're not just a bunch of kids running around with big dreams. We're professional people with agendas, and we're conscious of what we need to do, and we're regimented, and we show up on time, and we do this and we do that, and just like all the things that you need to do, which is like the grunt work that I always thought I could avoid, but I'm learning that that is part of the process, and it's also part of making yourself a better human to function on that level of reality. Like you can't, as a kid, just show up in an adult world and think that you're going to be okay because you think you're cooler than everybody else. It's like you need to learn how to behave and how to do this and how to do that in order to succeed, because we are trying to succeed in their world. It's part of our world, but they run it right now. So we need to do certain things in order for them to let us in and support us and believe in us.
Yeah. And this is also a special type of way of doing business, because it's not just entertainment, which you could easily classify all this stuff as. We're making videos, doing music, all that type of stuff. But the real value, I think, in even though it surely is entertaining and will be entertaining, is also that it's informative, it's helpful, it provides some sort of insight that can, I wouldn't say educate, because we're not educating, but I think being genuinely ourselves, just showing that reflection of what it's like to be, yourself. You don't have to necessarily do what the system tells you to do, but that doesn't mean you can avoid the system altogether. And here we are undergoing that process, having fun while we do it. Exactly. I think that's important to bring into it, because there's a lot of bullshit in the world. And I think instead of just distracting from the nonsense that's going on, we can transmute the chaos into something that's a little bit more digestible, a little bit more appropriate for moving forward, for having some sort of progress. Because that's the thing, is like even Mandala, as we always saw it, was like, we're going to show this movie and, save the world, something like that. And it's, in a way, it's like, yeah, sure, that's still part of it. But the hubris or the ego of thinking that we're going to provide some sort of information that's going to get people to think, oh my God, I didn't see it that way. It's changed a lot since then. Like we're almost looking at it like, no, it's almost like a given that people know something's going to happen, but that's not really what we're trying to do anymore. We're not trying to change the world. We're just trying to bring insight into what it's like to be in a changing world.
Yes.
And to experience that, and to show it honestly, that it's not easy, that there are lots of ups and downs. There is a lot of hope and promise for something that might never come, or the thing that you get is not the thing you were expecting in the first place. And just the trials and tribulations of dealing with a world like that. It's like, I think that's something that's really exciting about this type of service or thing that we provide, is that we're bringing more insight rather than like, we're sharing our experiences.
Right, in a very honest way, right? And trying to be honest to ourselves, with ourselves about it as well, which is right the best thing that you can do. It's what people are drawn to, I think, more than other stuff. People who are pompous and think that they can change people's minds, and they're the ones who are going to make the spontaneous evolution happen. They get annoying, at least after a while, if not initially. They're like preachy and holier than thou. And we were kids, and we thought that we had this tool of mandala and all of the other experiences and things we were being exposed to, and thinking that we were like, this is going to be the thing that like sparks the thing to happen. But yeah, we've come a long way since then. And so the script of mandala has evolved with us. Hey, shh, 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 shh. And it now more so reflects, as we do, the realness of the world. And I liked how you put that, like reflecting of like how it is to live in a changing world. And because that's the hardest thing, I feel like, for a lot of people, is that it is always in flux, and it is constantly changing, and we don't know which way. Like there's always these points where it's like, well, something's going to change. Okay, we didn't know which way it went, but it went that way. And that's just like the frequency of those things are happening more frequently. So the movie has totally reflected that. And it's almost like you can see in the future, as me still being super confident about this, is like, once mandala becomes successful, it's like the drafts themselves will be a story. Reading drafts 1 through 13 will be a story in itself, just to show the journey that we went through, and also like symbolic of the journey, part of the journey that humanity's gone through, and what we're going through right now, and what we thought, and then how we spoke, and how we communicated, and then how we internalized things, and what our intentions were, unto a point where it's kind of like, all right, now we kind of understand it more, and we don't have a different agenda. We still want to make the world a better place, but we realize that there's a more effective way and real way of doing it, which is why so people are drawn to like these genuine moments on YouTube, all these like wonderful, real moments people love, because we've seen so much fake stuff, and everyone's just like, God damn it, that's so fake. Even if it's in a movie or in real life, or people who are like trying to make something seem real when it is fake, it's just like the genuine moments are the ones that always get people. And the genuine people are always the people that are listened to. It's just like, at this point too, it's why Bernie was so, and Ron Paul in the beginning too, it's just like, well, he talks like, and that's why Donald Trump got elected, is because he was a real dude to a lot of people. And the genuineness really goes a long way. And I think us doing these podcasts too, is, even though we've only been doing them for a couple of years, we did some like 10 years ago, maybe not 10 years ago. But,
Yeah. I mean,
when I lived at my parents' house, like just those two will just show the evolution of us, and how it relates to what the world is going through, because it is really changing so quickly.
Yeah. And it's going to keep changing for the foreseeable future. It's not there. I think part of our old selves looked at it like there was going to be a 2012. There was going to be a moment where everything was going to change, and from that moment afterwards, it was going to be different. And now it's more or less, we're just our entire lives, and our children's lives and their children's lives is that moment.
Yeah.
That moment, it's just, we're going to be living through a constant change. There's going to be big things that happen. There'll be little things that happen. It's going to be like a slow burn for a long time. But it's like, that's the nature of this 2012 thing, is that we're in this ever-changing world. And that's something that we got. It's, instead of like looking to the future for something that's going to happen, like we've even thought about mandala in the past, like in the future, we're going to make this movie, or we're going to get this warehouse and we're going to turn it into here house, and then we're going to have a business. And that, even now, it's like the things are repeating. It's like, when we get there, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And we're kind of locked in this temporal prison of describing things in terms of time. Like, no matter what, we're looking, just trying to describe something we want. We don't experience it now. How do we compensate for that? How do we justify that? And it's like, every time we've done this, we've been readjusting the way that we've been doing it. This time, I think 3 times is a charm, for one thing.
That's what they say.
It's what they say.
They say.
They've been saying that for years. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
But it's not like we're not doing anything right now, though, right? Like,
no.
you've already done something. You just moved to Los Angeles. I'm actively writing the third draft of Mandala. Like I have one more note. Like this last week, I've implemented 40 different notes that we went to the Millennium Hilton in New York to specifically have a brainstorm about this. That
we had discussed we're gonna do this. We did it.
We did it.
Went down.
And
we're
now,
like, all right, go back to your respective satellites.
Yeah.
We're gonna then we plan shit out, and now we're doing it again. So it's
right.
You're right. That there is evidence.
We are doing stuff. It's taking a long time. Like we were in New York like a long time ago already now, but I'm finally implementing the notes now, but we're making it happen. Yes, at our own pace, and we need to get quicker eventually. But look where you are. You're not in Oceanside anymore. You've already changed your space, and that's a massive thing. And I've made the decision to change my space while also actually working on these things and sending them into actual contests where actual people are going to read them, including this guy,
Frankie.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So like we're making strides. Yes, we are not dedicating 20 hours of our day to everything yet, which is usually what it takes for success, but we're making strides. But we're still looking towards the future as this thing, that thing, and that thing, because we're not quite yet at our peak efficiency forms. Like I have a lot of things to calm down on, to focus on, to get out of the way, to actually become the business version of John Allen or the professional version of John Allen. Yeah, I put on a collared shirt, but I'm still sitting here drinking Pinot Noir, on a Tuesday night. So we have things that we need to do, and we have things that we have done, and we have things that we know we can do, and I think we're capable of doing it. It's we're better, I think, and I think ultimately, since the last incarnation of the Here House, we are in better places and we know more, and we are more capable of making the third time an actual charm instead of just the third time or the fourth time or the fifth time. Like this is, as I was speaking with my mom about it, I was like, this is it for me. If I go out there and after a certain amount of time, I'm like, okay, like I fall into the same thing that we fell into at the Here House or this or that. Like if I move back to Milwaukee again, that's it. Like I'm aware that I'm not going to be like, well, maybe when I'm 55, like this is the moment. Right. So that's bad and that's good to have that kind of pressure because, when we were younger in 21, 22, 23, it's like, well, there's always more time. It's like when I move out there next year, I'm going to be 35. Like that's, okay. Like I'm still not old enough to be president, but that's not 21 anymore. So
that's the next thing. If it doesn't work out, it's like, well, I guess the only thing left to do is to run for president. So there's always that. Just looking at the bright side, dude.
Okay, man. I appreciate it.
I'd vote for you. I'll run with you. I'll be your campaign manager.
Oh, all right. Well, now I feel great. Now I feel great about this. It's totally going to work out.
I've even been joking. Like I had when I first moved up here, I had a conversation with Mike. We're drinking, talking about just, everything, catching up on stuff. And there's the idea, there was the fires and the earthquakes in California and all that. It's just like people calling back from New York. Both of us will call and be like, are you okay? And it's like, we're fine. It's like, man, you got to move away from that place. It's like dangerous there. It's like, sure. Yeah. Like it's definitely like a big fucking earthquake. Just like, this is the end. Ever just fall in. But the way Mike and I both agreed to this and similar what you were saying, it's like, it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's good to look at this way and also not good is that we're both like, well, we're here and we're going to go down with the ship. Like, I'm not fucking leaving. Yeah. I'm not fucking leaving. It's like, I swear, like that's the way I felt when I got back to California after being in Crestone. Mm-hmm. Just really thinking, this is where I belong. I know it's easier because my parents live there and everything, but even being up here in LA, I made my decision. I'm gonna be here. I'm going to ride this thing out, either going to be successful or going to, you know, die in the process. Like, that's the way I'm seeing it. So I think the good side of it is that's motivation to just fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know, don't wait for the fucking earthquake to happen. Sit
Yeah.
there and be like, shit.
Yeah.
Just like fucking make it happen. So that's exciting. It's an exciting feeling because it's like we're living in this crazy time, and as opposed to living in just somewhere in Nebraska somewhere, you know.
Agreed. Well, right. Yeah. I'm the same way. I know all of our parents obviously feel that way about like, oh, crazy Los Angeles and this and that. And then, yeah, everyone in 20 years, you know, the coastline will go in 80 miles or something like that, or whatever they say, or just one earthquake away from catastrophe from a Dwayne The Rock Johnson movie. Like, it's going to happen maybe eventually, but it's a dangerous, it represents the culture there as well, and how dangerous the culture is. And because of all the dreamers and the aspirations and the lofty goals people have, like it's dangerous to live in a place with so many people concentrated that have such high aspirations, because it's super aggressive and there's not enough positions for everyone. Like 90% of those people have to fail for the 10 to be successful. So it almost doesn't matter that there might be a 9.2 earthquake that shakes everything, because that's like an afterthought. It's like, that doesn't matter, because what we're trying to accomplish here, we're racing against the other people. And okay, if the earthquake happens, then yeah, we're here. I'll go down with the ship. There's a reason why we're so drawn to that place. You know, most people after one time going out there and not working out will be like, all right, well, I guess, you know, Oceanside's a nice place to retire. Or even if you went back to Mayapack, you know, it's a great places to live. Milwaukee, I can make a career here. But we were both like, no, we're going to go back. We went back, didn't work again. We went back home. We both recuperated. I'm still recuperating. Picked up some bad habits along the way, but still the thing never went away. Like, we're both like, no, we need to go back there and do this thing for whatever fucking reason.
Like Lost.
That's still in us. Yeah, it was just like, oh, you're finally out of there, right? It's like, yeah, there was a little bit of relief because LA is so intense. Whenever anyone asks me about it, it's always like a love-hate thing. And I feel like most people probably feel that way unless you're a native or whatever. But it's amazing, and it's also just like really heavy and intense and all this stuff at the same time. But I still always want to go back there. Like I'm always drawn to it. Even though I'm like, I love living in the Bay Area. It was a great feeling. It was a nice little vacation. If I would ever like move and buy a nice house and I was very wealthy, maybe I'd move up to Berkeley or San Francisco somewhere. But like, I'm not trying to move to Berkeley. I'm not trying to move to Seattle. I'm not trying to move to New York. I'm not trying to move to Chicago. Chicago would be a great step for me because it's right up the road. There's still a lot of opportunities there, but I don't want to fuck Chicago. Fuck Chicago. Like fuck New York, and I want to go to LA. For whatever reason, that is where both of us feel like the place is for us to make the things happen that we are passionate about and that we want to make happen. We're still not 100% sure of how we're going to do that, but it's undeniable that we're both like, we need to go there. You're there now, again for the third time. I'm coming there again for the third time, and we're going to make shit happen because that's just what we feel like we have to do. You know, it's just like in our evolutionary, it's like when mammals or animals are doing things that they don't know why, but like, hey, I know we need to fly here and we need to go fuck over there. And then we need to fly back here because that's just what we need to do. Like, that's what my insides are telling me, you know, in order for our species to survive, this is what we need to accomplish. And that's kind of how I feel and probably how you feel.
Oh, yeah.
In order for us to survive, we need to go to where you are, and we need to do these things that we need to do.
We need to do these things.
Yeah.
We need to do these fucking things. And because we're being these things, it also applies to the conversations I've had with Mike for many years about rite of passage and the whole horse and the rider story that has shifted and changed, similar to Mandala. I mean, shorter movie, but it's like we never made it as far as having like a fucking draft or anything like that. But, you know, first it's a music video, then it's a short, then it's a feature, back to short. Okay, now it's about this, now it's about that. And it's like, okay, well, what are we trying to do? We're trying to, you know, show a vision of that we can change the world. That it doesn't have to be all fucked up. You know, we're going to tell similar thing. It's like, we're going to show people the truth. Yeah. But then as it went on, it's like, dude, like, who the fuck are we to tell people the truth? Like, we don't know shit.
Yeah,
We don't
yeah.
know shit. We haven't done shit. It's like, and it's not like beating ourselves up as much as now in retrospect saying, this is a story about us. And we can't just say these things without having lived them, because that's what it ultimately became. It was a story about personal change and going through this ritual rite of passage to become like the new you. And it was like, especially at the time, it's like we weren't really doing that. It's like, and ever since then, like going to Crestone, it's all rite of passages. There's always these experiences, but the question is, are we reflecting on all these things? So there's this very interesting parallel with all of this stuff where we actually are living the experiences. And
Who would have thought? Who would have thought you needed to do that?
yeah, and it's like it's like it came out like some abstract idea. It's like it's almost like you have to live and have experiences. It's so true, though.
But now we know.
Yeah, dude.
California dreaming, baby. California dreaming.
I love it. You know, it's definitely, there's a lot of potential for what we want to do here. And after moving up here and seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like the perfect timing of that. And just, I wanted to say this before, but the idea of Quentin Tarantino like rewriting history, I really like that. I think that's a really cool idea. I watched Django Unchained again last night with Steve. It's like taking a lot of these issues of what's going on in the world, what you expect is going to happen, and just like saying, fuck that, we're going to do this instead. And doing it in a way that gets people excited, because it's like there's like, especially Django, there's a lot of social, like, you know, triggering going on right there. But then the way that it ended, similar to Inglourious Bastards, it's like, yes, like people want that. People want to see history to change. It's like, why do we have to keep reliving and telling the same fucking story over and over again? It's like, no. So it's like really cool. And with people like Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg, even who else? Robert Zemeckis, like all those guys. They were in the system as it was. And we've talked about this since we were in film school, is they were in the system as it was. Hollywood was producing the same shit. And what did they do? They basically said, well, Francis Ford Coppola specifically said, fuck that, I'm not going to stay here. Fuck Hollywood. I'm going to go do my own thing and get out of the system. And then all these people started doing that. Even Steven Spielberg did it in a way where it's like he infiltrated the system.
Yeah.
I mean, he made his own way. He went and found a broom closet, turned it into an office, and then before you know it, he's fucking directing a movie which he thought was going to be the biggest failure of all time, ruin his career. And then you have Jaws. So it's like taking these risks, but also not just conforming to the system. And so I remember we would always say, this is great. This is what we should do. And that partly was motivating why we had the warehouse, the Year House. Yeah. Like, let's go into, even what we're saying now, let's go into business for ourselves. Let's do things differently. But it seems to be a little bit more clear now, not just in our heads, but in terms of practicality and fulfilling what it is that we want to do. It's like, have to ask ourselves, it's like, well, those guys are now the establishment. Spielberg, all those guys, they're the establishment now. So how do you, what's the next level? How do you break free from that? Well, we've got the internet. We're doing this. We're having podcasts. We're creating our own content. We're talking about having our own business and going into business for ourselves. I think that is kind of the way to do it. It's a different kind of forum, but it's not just meant to entertain. There's that whole sharing the experience aspect of it. So it's like that motivation has still like rung true since we discovered it. But I think now the practical application of it, you know, taking it seriously, that part, that's going to be the exciting part. And it's like, I think it'll be a lot more manageable when it's specifically just the two of us. Like if we have our own satellite, not like, you know, big house, big ambitions, high rent. What are we going to do? It's all we have to worry about is just the two of us.
Right.
And I think we could do that. That's something we haven't done before. We've never done that.
No, we haven't. And
So that's on our side, like the benefit of the doubt of it never having been done. It's not like we're just, even though we're attempting to do this LA thing for the third time, there are similarities. We've never done this before, so that's on our side.
Yeah, agreed. And we know we're on the same page, right? Whereas moving into the Here House, we know Mike and we know Jeremy, but they're still both doing their own things, and then we had two other people that were just like thrown in there kind of, and then after that two other people that were just kind of thrown in there. So there's a lot of unaccounted for energy, whereas you and I are definitely very much in the same vein, in the same lane, which makes it way more manageable, and like the vision of the company is a lot more clear, and obviously with only two people it's a lot less to worry about, and way more doable, right? And it's like you said, we've never even attempted that before. Yeah, we've done projects together, and they've all turned out great, I think. But we've never made this step, and I think you're right. It's exciting. It's an exciting step because we know we're good at the making shit up part. So it only stays to reason that we'll be great at the taking it seriously. Like once we get there, once we're both encouraging each other to take it seriously, because when it's just you and you're trying to wake up at 5 a.m. to work out and nobody else knows it, it's like, well, I could just sleep in, but if it's like two of us, like we're meeting at the office, we're going to do that, like we're going to make that happen.
Yeah, and we could even make the office like a coffee shop. Like we go find a coffee shop, right, or whatever. It's like we got to go to the office.
I feel like that's why when you see people at cafes doing work, like that's the mentality, is like, I got to get out of my house. And then they're over there. And every time I see somebody working at a cafe, they're like, oh, yeah. They're like fucking killing it every time. Like, what? How do they do that?
Yeah.
But
they were probably sitting at home just like,
yeah.
I don't know what to do. It's like, yes.
Yeah, either that or they're pretending. And I'm like, damn, you're good at typing, dude.
Yeah, is anybody looking at me?
I'm working hard, bro. My coffee there? Yeah, but I think I agree. I think these are really good steps. And I think we're, I wouldn't ever want to go into something like this with anyone but you, when it's starting off. Obviously I'd want Mayor and Corey and Jeremy and Doyle to be involved in this, but like getting it going, I think we have the vision for that complement each other, because we've been morphing into each other. Like our consciousness are very intertwined, and they have been for over 10 years. So, which is also bad sometimes, because we never think anything's a bad idea that either of us come up with. So I think inevitably, eventually, a good, like, solid, distant third perspective will be extremely valuable.
Yeah,
like a lawyer or an agent or somebody who's just like, no. We'll be like, okay, at least But for the time being, getting things going and setting the kind of baseline for what we want to accomplish, how we go about accomplishing it, maybe other people will be better at advising us with that. But what we want to accomplish and the ideas that we have, I think it's great for you and I to do that. And also, this may be what you meant, but we've never lived together, just the two of us. We've lived in 3 different places together, but always with a lot of other people.
Yeah.
The dorms, the house, Venice Beach, and the Here House. So I guess 4 different places, but always with at least 3 other people.
Yeah. And the dorm is like we were in a dorm complex.
Yeah, right. We both had our own rooms, but that was the closest we've come to living together, I think.
Yeah. And that's when we first met too. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to that, and I'm confident that we can encourage each other in that department. And we have something also that works to our favor is the fact that we've known each other for so many years, and we've had the same vision for so many years, and we've attempted a few times to do things like this. Right. Like the Here House being the biggest one that I think was probably building since the house. Like the house was just kind of the blossoming zone where all that stuff started, really came into idea sphere. But then the Here House was like, let's do it. Didn't work. But then we've even been doing these podcasts. We've been still collaborating, developing mandalas. You've been writing that. And the biggest thing that also is very encouraging is the monolith. The fact that we did that after we said we would. And it was a good example of not biting off more than we can chew in terms of like having a goal. What is this goal? Fulfilling the goal, and then like letting go. Not putting all the eggs into that basket right away.
Yeah, and I love that to us, I think, or at least to me, like there was no fear of it not being successful. Like we went there to go brainstorm and make Mandala better. And everything else was like a worry, and like the money and the time and the job, like our jobs and like meeting up with other people. But we were never worried that we weren't going to fucking kill it when it came to coming up with new notes for Mandala.
Right.
That's never been an issue with us. It's like, oh my God, I hope we can like live up to the agenda and to our hopes and stuff like that. Like, of course that came, and every time we came up with something like, oh shit, that makes so much sense. Like, there was like so many major breakthroughs, and there have been every time we've had a new draft. I know Mayer one time had to arguably the biggest note that we've gotten is to change the lead characters from a male to a female. But like, he was just happened to be around, and it was like perfect. Just like we create such a great space for these magical things to happen. And even during these podcasts, even though we're thousands of miles apart, we create this space in between satellites for amazing things to happen. And I think that's a big relief, or at least it could be a bigger worry for other people who are endeavoring on things that we're endeavoring on. Is like, well, what if we don't have enough subject matter, or we can't come up with ideas? It's like that, like the last thing that we will be short on is content and ideas and things to be sellable. Like the only thing that's an issue is the professional aspect and having enough money to do this and that. And I think that's a nice relief to have, is like, we got that. We got all that. Like maybe we're not the best in the world. Maybe we're a little bit confident because, like I said, we're always on the same page and we think the same way. So we think we're both like hilarious and brilliant, which will be good and might bite us in the ass at some point. But
that's where the agent comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
We got an agent. We're fine.
Yeah. So, but like, that's just nice for us to be like, yeah, we got that. We just got to figure out all the hoity-toity business BS, and we will do that, and we're capable of doing that because it's not as difficult, I think, as it may seem to become pretend professional, like to put the clown suit on, to make an office. It's like, to be legit, we're only 2 steps away from being legit. And that just comes with, doing enough research, saving up, and being smart and diligent for like 6 months. And then we're there, and all the rest we got, we don't have to worry about. So,
yeah. And dude, I think because even before we have a business, like you were saying before about having written all these scripts for contests, and I got my demo reel, and I just did that music video for Annie, and there's all this like other little stuff going on. It's like, I don't even think I have a folder on my computer with just like everything that I've done this year. I know in my head I've done a bunch of shit this year, but it's like, okay, I got to go find it. It's on this hard drive, or, it's on this YouTube channel over here. But I think having the business, once we establish that, keeping a catalog, once we make something, it's in the can, boom, it's in that bin now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we just keep building, and we keep building. And that is going to be something we haven't done before. Having a database, official place where all of the stuff that we're done with, like even since being back up here and I've got this desk, I've been just keeping track, writing it down on paper of the things that I've done since I've had this desk. And it's just like one of those things where having all that in one place is going to be encouragement to keep things coming out. Because before having a business, it'd just be like casually, like, let's do this, let's have a podcast, or let's talk about Mandala here, or do this. But now that you're even like writing the scripts and have contests to submit them to, there's some sort of like taking it to the next level of just being creative versus actually pushing it out there into the world and creating a space for it to exist. So like having a website, all that type of stuff, that's going to be, it's just going to feed back into the encouragement of why we're doing what we're doing and to push us further to do more.
Agreed. And they'll be like, imagine sitting in an office surrounded by all of the shit that we've done. Like you said, it's always been ethereal. Like I have scripts that I've made, but they're in boxes somewhere, or they're on my hard drive, or the videos that I've edited, or this, and all the stuff you've done for Uncle Bruce and that music video that was awesome that you made, and all the other videos that you've made. Like they're all like, yeah, over here, over there, over there. But imagine having all of that like in the same room. It's almost like a trophy cabinet. It's like these
Yeah.
are the things that we've accomplished. And then when the day comes where somebody's like, show me what you got, you don't have to be like, well, over here and over there and over there. It's like, oh no, right here it is. Here's the filing cabinet. Here's our shelf.
Yeah.
It's like, let me just grab it right here and here it is. And I think being organized, like that's a big key to everything, right? Is having, instead of having a bedroom where you got this and that corner, like right now, I thought me having a 2-bedroom apartment is great. It's like a half step towards what we want to do, is because I have this room dedicated to all the artistic stuff I want to do. And then I have my bedroom where I sleep.
Right.
And I rarely do anything in there except for fall asleep to Netflix. And then I have my own like TV room in there. And it's really good to have the segmented thing, because then I know when I come in here, like this place is carpeted. So when I light incense in here, the smell sticks a little bit more. So, and then the lighting and like the ambiance, and I'm just thinking about the office already, like what kind of lighting we'd have in there. If they had like the white lighting in there, I'd be like, we got to change the lighting immediately, but like already thinking about that, and then having nice shelves and a filing cabinet where
Yes.
our financial stuff, like all that little stuff, really, really goes a long way.
Yeah.
And mentally for us, and then just being organized and knowing where stuff is a great professional characteristic to have. And then also just like seeing stuff. I remember like when I did do that, like one of my hard drives, and looked up all the random like playful fun videos that I've made over the last 10 years. And there's like, just looking at all of them, just like, even just that was like, I never planned on showing those to anybody but my friends. It was like, this is really cool. I've like done all these things, and all it was just like a list of them. And it made me feel really, really good. And it's like, I did do a bunch of stuff, and I did all that for myself. Nobody paid me. Nobody asked me to do it. I was just like, oh, I got this footage. We had a good time. This would be cool if I did that. And there are like, however many of those, and just seeing them was really, really rewarding to me. So imagine having that for like, wow, I could use this, like translate that to videos that you've made for Uncle Bruce or other people. It's like, look at what I can do. Like it really is satisfying. Or a stack of scripts for me, it's just like, look at that's work that you put into stuff. Like it may have taken me a lot longer than it should have. But look at all that stuff that I've done. And that just is kind of a reflection of yourself. It's like externalizing your passion and what you're capable of. And then if people ask you why they should hire you or why they should work with you, instead of like trying to sit them down and you sell yourself, it's like, look,
speaks for itself.
Look at my mountain, look at my trophy, look at my all this stuff. Like I don't have to say anything because I've put the work in.
Yeah. Yeah. What we should do is we should make a Back to the Future for The Office. That was something Uncle Bruce was telling me when I explained to him about the plan to have like a business and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, you want to get every little detail, every fucking detail you could possibly imagine of what that place is going to look like, what are you going to see out the window, or what are the other offices around it going to be like, what are the carpet's going to look like,
smell like, yeah,
what's it going to smell like,
yeah,
all those things. And the more it's like literally we haven't done one of those in a long time.
No.
And that's again using the tools at our disposal to take advantage of manifesting something into reality. We know it works, and we know that the more we put into it, the more that it will come back. And that's without having to do necessarily a balance. I mean, of course we could do that, but I think the Back to the Future specifically, just laying out the blueprint of what this place is going to look like. So the subconscious can immediately start just like redirecting us to get to that point, or course correcting or adjusting the course to work, because we're obviously heading in that direction. Always have it.
Yeah, but there's little adjustments that need to be made, right? Like you're going this way. Yeah, totally. We should do that. I used to. Oh no, here it is. Right here. Yep. Yeah. How do you use psyche? Yeah, Back to the Future. I have it right here. It's been sitting out here for a while because I've been meaning to do it, but it's still completely blank, but
Perfect.
it's still in good condition. Abigail or Machiavelli didn't get to this one, so
Oh, nice.
yeah, Machiavelli ate part of the original folder OG, and I think Abigail might have eaten part of the new one. So
He's like, he eats it and he's like, I know Psyche.
it's kicking in the Psyche.
Psyche is starting to kick
in. So in the vein of Mandala, I just want to run a few things by you before, because I've implemented all of the tiny notes that we have.
Yeah.
And then obviously I still haven't done the big scene in the middle that kind of changes everything that we've talked about. I think we kind of laid that one out pretty well. I got a lot of good notes on that and a lot to work with, as far as kind of just like a crazy scene of her falling off the end, basically. But what I was thinking about last night was, I changed it to that when she's about to make the big tweet, and then Barnhart and Vincelli come in and like threaten her and all that stuff. I just have him like kill Chris at that point. That was one of the things that I just sent you a little snippet of. And that's the thing that just kind of finally numbs her, is that everyone that she's cared about is now dead, basically. But she's still, so I'm thinking we either have to make it so she realizes that she is the focus of, she's the one who's going to get killed. And that's why she doesn't say anything into the mic, because I feel like if she still thought the president was the target, even if she didn't care for her life,
she would say
she
something.
would still say something into the microphone. So my other thought was like, okay, well then I think the original reason why we had Chris on side stage is because they had a gun pointed at him.
Right, like don't
if
say
you
shit.
Say anything, then we're gonna kill him. So I feel like I might need to go back to that.
Yeah.
Or like there could be, I'm just thinking it would be really hard to execute a moment where like she says something after they kill Chris and Barnhart's just like, it's not, like you think you have everything figured out, but it's not what you think it is still. You know, something along the lines where she like says like, I won't let you kill the president, I won't let you do this, maybe more subtle than that. And he's like, it's not, you still haven't got it all figured out, girl. And then we want her to realize that it's going to be her.
Oh, yeah, because it could be
but we don't want the audience to realize it.
Right.
So, and then there's a moment on the stage where like we could see her like being candid, like where she's like, hey, everyone, thanks for coming out. You know, I just want to thank the president for coming out. And there's like a moment where she could say something.
Right.
But she doesn't. Something along those lines. I'm still toying with what to do. Like either she thinks it's still going to be the president and they have Chris on the side and she doesn't say anything because she doesn't want Chris to get killed. So she either has to choose between Chris or the president, or she knows it's going to be her, so she doesn't worry about it.
Right.
Say anything. But how do we portray that with like a look?
I forgot.
Without giving it away.
What is Jeff still alive? Not Jeff. Matt?
No, Matt's dead at this point.
Matt's dead at this point. So pretty much all of her allies, all of her friends, all the people that were running around.
Well, and then another thought I had that I'm sure we've talked about in the past at some point is like every time she kind of looks over side stage or in the box where Timothy Hollis says people keep showing up, that she like Jennifer Winter shows up and this person shows up and all of a sudden she just sees all the people that were in on it.
Right.
It's kind of like, I don't know, it's probably a cliche shot where you just see it. But I could just imagine her singing and looking over, and it's Timothy Hollis getting into the box next to the president.
Right.
It's like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden she looks over, and maybe instead of side stage, Vincelli is in the box too, and Chris is there, and she sees Vincelli putting the gun on Chris, and Barnhart's there, and then she's dancing around, and she looks over, and Jennifer Winters is there now. So she's kind of seeing that everybody was against her, and it's kind of like, what the like almost it's like, wow, like I've totally been played.
I had a question for what was the last, like, because there's the thought we're trying to establish that like mislead the audience to think that the whole thing is about assassinating the president.
Right.
Where do we last leave off? Like, is she, I forgot, like, is she the only one that like after they're all trying to like get to the president and then like she's the only one that knows, and it's like up to her to warn everybody. That's pretty much it. Like the
Yeah,
last note that we leave on is that she's just like, they're going to kill the president. I have to stop them.
yeah. So I left. We talked about taking the tweeting out there,
Yeah.
but I've left it in at this point because to make it seem like there's still a little hope, but then Vincelli or one of the minions ends up like deleting, like
Yeah, deletes them immediately.
deletes the tweet, so it becomes insignificant regardless.
Yeah,
so
or they change them.
Yeah, at that point, it would the only hope she would have is saying something into the microphone at the concert. But we have to I think we have to acknowledge that because it took the Millennium Hilton for us to realize that she could just say something.
Okay, all right, okay. This is now what I'm starting to think about. We got to think about the state of mind that she's in at this point. And when we were texting with each other before, and this is back to Euphoria a little bit,
right.
Like I can see her unraveling. Now this is okay. I'm going to jump around a little bit, so forgive me, but I'm going to try to bring it back to the original point of what.
That's how we operate, dude. That's how we operate.
Okay, so like in Game of Thrones, it was like on the turn of a dime, Daenerys went mad. Like she was totally like, you can look back and be like, yeah, they kind of like left some breadcrumbs throughout. She had madness around her family, so you shouldn't be surprised that she lost her shit. And I guess so, but it's like we missed something there. We missed a little bit of time to see her unravel after Jorah died, and it's similar to Lilith. I'm getting chills. It's like all of her fucking allies died, like up until the very end, and then all of a sudden she fucking loses her shit. So it'd be nice to see, like, especially after the part where she like goes off and has a bender, does all the drugs, and like falls in the water, and like Barnhart's in the hospital being like, you really got to take care of yourself, blah blah blah. It'd be nice from that point on to really show things getting skewed. I mean, like, because the movie progresses like a regular movie, but then from that point on, it's like we're really starting to see it only through her eyes, because originally she wasn't one of the main like focal points. Jeff was like more of a main focal point. Matt was a main focal point, and then she starts to take over when she goes to Jennifer Winters and like has the whole thing. Like she's like doing it on the side from being a rock star. But then when, everybody's dead, she wanted to die. From that point on, she's the fucking like finally the main character. Yeah. So we should really start to see it from her perspective. Yeah. Isn't she like not only on drugs, but they're like doping her up and shit at the hospital? I remember talking about like montages where she's like getting her hair done and everything, and she's just all fucked up because she has nothing to live for anymore, but she's just like caught in the machine, or all of her standards are no longer existent. So it's like, I really like the idea of her hallucinating and like seeing shit that's not there, but also not just like random shit. Like, I really like the idea that she is haunted by Melissa.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things, like when we first see her in the beginning of the movie, it's like she finally she's at a point where she's no longer really mourning or grieving, but she knows herself to a point where she's like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to be in the music industry or whatever anymore. I finally feel better. I'm going to just bow out now. And then like, was it Leonardo DiCaprio shows up? He's like, hey, no, you're not done. And it's like, oh God, Leonardo DiCaprio's here. I gotta do this, something like that.
Yeah.
But, and then she goes on this big whirlwind and everything seems fine, but then it's within like a cascade of bad events that take place of everybody dying. Yeah. Suddenly she's brought back, not just to the point in which we saw her at the beginning of the movie, but the point where Melissa died. So she's like completely out of her fucking mind. And it's like, she was like, when we first see her in the movie, she's standing on the edge of the thing. Like, you don't show somebody do that unless they're suicidal, basically, or they're depressed, or they want to throw it all away. They want to jump off the cliff.
Yeah.
So now we're actually seeing her, and then we already saw her go out into the water and fall face down into the water. So at this point, it's like she is suicidal, but it's not the same kind of thing. Like she's like a puppet going along for this fucking ride at this point.
Yeah.
And so I think when it comes down to like the decision that she has to make of like, should I tell the people? Because it's not even the tweet. Like maybe she even realizes it, or that like whatever tweet she sends out, like just get rerouted
Maybe
to somebody.
she stops tweeting, like as she's like typing it, and then she just doesn't even send it or something like that. Like,
Yeah, it's like it doesn't even. It's like I'm sure Vincelli's got some guy monitoring her tweets, and like whatever
yeah,
tweet she sends
yeah, of
goes to
course.
one of Vincelli's minions who just changes it immediately.
True, true,
So
true.
it's like, yeah, she could be in the middle of typing, but it's like, what the fuck is the point? Like I could type this shit out, it won't make a fucking difference anyway.
Hmm.
Like there's this kind of this apprehension towards caring. It's like caring about anything anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, right, I feel like,
But I feel like the last, sorry to like
no,
interject,
no, go, please, please.
but the last person that she cares about that's alive is the president, right?
Right,
So she can't think that he's going to be killed.
right.
Or we just bring her down to the point where she just doesn't even care anymore that the president's going to get killed. Because
No, I
literally
think she
everybody
should
else,
know. I think she should know, but it would be one of those things where it's not explicitly in a line of dialogue or something where we realize, oh, she knows. It would have to be a little. It's like we're watching her in this crazy state, and she just has like a look or something.
right. That's what I'm envisioning. But we need to like, I think, we have to have the audience realize in retrospect that, oh, she did know, and that's why she didn't say anything. But when it happens, we don't want them to be like, we don't want everybody in the audience to be like, oh, it's her, not the president, before it happens, because that's always been the
Right,
punchline, right? Is
right,
that
right.
it's her when you think it's going to be the president. And yeah, we've dumbed that down because it's not so much about that moment as it is about her accepting that what's about to happen to her.
Right.
So maybe it could be a point where, like I said, like a line from somebody, and she just kind of, it's really subtle, but and if you're really, really slick and you're really aware, then maybe, 1 in 100 people in the audience were like, oh shit, it's not the president, it's her. I think it's okay if like 10% of the audience gets it, but you don't want a majority of the audience to be expecting her to get killed instead of the president, because that's the whole moment.
Right. Yeah. We want that.
But then in retrospect, we want them to be like, oh, she knew.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's going to be a tough. I just don't know how to write that, I guess.
I don't know either yet. I'm trying to think, like put myself into her shoes. Like what would you do if you knew, like you had this big public forum where you're about to like be able to speak to the world, and you could literally just tell everyone that, shit's about to go down. Here's another thought too. It's like,
give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm going to be right back too.
Okay.
Oh, fuck. It's so hot in here.
Sorry, dude.
No, don't be. I just took a couple drags off a cigarette.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Bad habits, baby. I don't want to vape anymore. So I feel like tobacco is a little bit, it's tried, it's true, it's tested.
Tried and it's true.
Who knows what the fuck's in that vape, man?
That's true.
So
All right,
here's
yeah,
here's a thought I had. I don't know how much this would like alter everything thus far, but
that's what we do.
yeah, that's what we do. But there's a like in the frame of Lilith, like especially towards like the last act of the story, where it's just like seeing it from her perspective, where it's like we don't know what the fuck is real anymore. We don't know what the fuck is gonna happen. She's struggling. She doesn't care. She does care. It's like all the people that trying to help everybody. And we've been saying it's like the whole thing we're trying to like lead the audience into assuming is that the president is going to get killed. Like we like always assume that was the thought that we want people to have when this is going down. Like, oh my God, they're going to go after the president. That definitely should be a thing. But I feel like it might help us if it's not just one thing, specifically like in the way things unfold, like especially like the president could definitely be at risk, is at risk. Everybody else is at risk because everybody's getting it, coming into the concert, getting their swine flu vaccination. There could be even a little bit more ambiguity towards what the whole swine flu thing is. Like maybe one of the things we could lead people to think is that they're trying to infect everybody with a disease that's going to kill everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not just the president. It's like
yeah.
all these like now the audience be thinking it's like all these people are all about to die.
Yeah.
Everyone is about to fucking die that has the swine flu. They're gonna like hit the fucking mandala button. Everyone's just gonna fucking dead.
I like that, and that wouldn't take that much honestly in the script because when they're like frantically reading the paper or whatever, and Jennifer Winters is like, oh, it says this, it says that. Oh, literally, that would take one line to be like, and then the people, and then the injected or whatever you could say are triggered into a catatonic state or something like that.
I just got chills thinking in that scene in V for Vendetta. I think it was like towards the end, there was that like great montage where like V has got the dominoes and he's like pushing the dominoes and they're all going down. And there's like the voiceover of V being like all the things coming together. Yeah. It's just like all the things lining up. And there's this and this over here and this and the state. Aren't you worried about this and this and that and this and that? It's just like a fucking like clusterfuck of all sorts of shit that's about to go down. And it's like it's almost like the game Clue. Like we don't know who the fuck did it. We know somebody fucking did it.
That's way better than having the focus just on one person because you're relying a lot on that deception going through. Whereas if you spread it amongst everybody, he's at risk, they're at risk, all these people are at risk.
If it's that muddled and confusing, then like what if you're Lilith? Like what do you say?
Yeah.
Do you go out there and like warn everybody the president's about to be killed when that might not be the thing?
Yeah.
It's like what the fuck do I say?
Yeah.
So it's like
what if that's what they want me to do?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay,
so that just adds to the fucking confusion of everything. And it's like
great. And how like she could feel so defeated and trapped into being like, well, fuck, no matter what I do.
Yeah.
It's whatever. So
it's like all that shit builds up to the moment, like right when she's like walking out on stage. Or being like, rising up out of the floor or coming, whatever the fuck stage craft is happening there, fucking lasers and holograms and satellites and, fucking like, not just the swine flu like epidemic that is being induced by the government potentially or the president being assassinated, but then you also got like fucking satellites being launched up and you got like world powers like the president. There could be a thing where like not only because the president's sort of like a side character, he's definitely a target for like the deep state, right? The Vincelli and the Hollises of the world. Yeah. But then again, like what if it's more another thing to add to it, like in that beginning part when we first see President Bacon, we don't realize he's the president right away. Yeah. But then like, Mr. President, we have an urgent phone call. It's like, he's like, all right, good night, Lilith. And he goes, turns the light off. And then all of a sudden knock at the door. And they're like, Mr. President, and turns the light on. We need you in the Situation Room. So maybe there could be like a little part in there where we establish also that there's like a potential war about to break out like in Ukraine or something. Yeah, so, and the satellites going up could be another things that could be imminent, World War III imminent. World War III is imminent. A fucking world pandemic's about to happen. The president could be about to be killed. All of these fucking things going down.
And then the last thing that you'd expect at that point is like the one person It's just all about the one person at that point.
Yeah, and then when she's being, like suspended, lowered out, holograms, whatever, she's suddenly, that's when she realizes it's her. When it's just the sound of everyone like, and it's just like, it should be this crazy buildup, like that scene from V, like all these fucking things, and it's like, oh, shit's about to go down, and then it's like, now introducing liquid crystal, and then it's just like a long moment where she's just out there and just kind of, that's when she realizes it's her.
Yeah.
And that's not about warning people, it's about being free, which is what she wants to do. Yeah. This is something she's always wanted to do in a fucking terrible situation, obviously she wouldn't want to be in, but then again, it's like with all the shit she's been through at this point, it's exactly what she wants to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So she fucking follows through with it. So it's like when you're in the audience, you're just like not sure. You're watching all the people getting swine flu vaccines, the president sitting down, and like some like shady Secret Service guy standing behind him, being like, sure.
Yeah, all the things, from every angle, and then that's what. Yeah, and she realizes that. I like that she would realize it in the beginning before the show, so she'd be able to perform the show as a completely free being, which is the moment that creates the moment where Barnhart is like humanized, or we say where he might not shed a tear on scene, but you can see that he's like genuinely moved by Skylar just got here.
Oh, nice.
He's genuinely moved by the performance, and everyone is just like, wow, this is something different. And it's because she's just like in fuck it mode, just complete like that. And then she's almost happy. Like we talked about that, I think. She's almost happy when it's about to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's her like Phoenix moment of rising from the ashes before it all goes down.
Yeah.
So it's like where
okay, that solves a lot of the worries that I had.
Yeah, it's like pinning it all on the present. That's a difficult thing. And it's like in retrospect, because I briefly mentioned to Uncle Bruce about like the changes that we made when we were at the Monolith.
Yeah, I'm still nervous about all like.
I told him, and as I was explaining to him, he was like, "What? What are you doing?" I was like, "Yeah." And it's like it doesn't even matter. Like it's like it's not even like a big surprise that she dies in the end. And he's like, "What?"
Yeah, I know.
That's the whole point of the fucking movie.
Right. I know. I can only imagine that.
But it's like, I know it came out. It is the point, but it's not the point. And he was like, "All right, whatever."
Oh, I know. He gave it to you, man. He said. Yeah. I know, but I can understand his perspective. That's why I've been nervous, like, because that's like, I'm not sure he's been like pining over it, but that's like his baby, So we've changed it a lot. We've kept the fundamentals and like the building blocks and all the main great big things, but we've painted them in a different light, I think.
And like the one thing that I did explain to him with confidence, like, look, the story of like everyone of like, why wouldn't she just tell everyone right then and there? Like if she thought that the president was getting assassinated, why isn't she just like announce it on stage? And he's like, well, yeah, I guess. I'm like, yeah, because you can't, because it's like, oh my God, I have to warn people. Only I had the opportunity to warn people. You can't make it that easy of a thing. Like, oh, if I just tell the people this.
Right.
But it's like, if you don't know what the fuck to tell people and you're going crazy, like you're on stage and the whole thing leading up to it, she's having like these visions, like Melissa's haunting her and the whole thing where it's just like,
oh, so like in the same vein for V Vendetta, when they see in the crowd the people that have died, like the scene of the girl, like you can have Melissa in the crowd, like she could have that kind of moment.
Yes.
Or see her, wherever she needs to see her. Like that, I think adds so much more to it.
Yeah,
that's great. Instead of it being like a moment, and I'm really happy, like in retrospect, that we discovered that note in Mandala, like that. Why doesn't she just say it to the crowd? Because that would have been, I feel like that would have been so embarrassing if we were sitting in a room with somebody and they were like, yeah, this is great, but why wouldn't she just say it into the microphone? We'd be like,
that's like, there'd be that would be like well, I guess I got to run for president now. Okay, the whole movie thing didn't work out, so you know what? I'm gonna run for president.
Well, I guess I got to run for president. Yeah, I love that. That's the backup plan.
Yeah,
that's a good backup plan.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. Hey!
Hi!
It's good to see you. It's been so long. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. hot. It's hot out here.
Hot. He's hot. He's back in LA.
Woo!
So he's hot.
I'll be there in like a week.
Really?
Yeah, she'll be in LA.
Oh, well, you got to hit me up. We'll hang out.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi.
Ow.
Hi.
Abigail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, too. Just even reflecting the world and how crazy it is. And you don't know what the fuck is going to happen.
In the refrigerator. Right. And well, then it just makes more sense, and it cuts out all the questions that people would have, like, including, like, why wouldn't you just say something and this and that? It's like, if all that stuff's going on, it needs to make sense for her to be free. Like, whatever we need to do to make her to know what's going on, accept what's going on, basically.
Yeah.
And then for you not to be totally prepared for what's going to happen, because we still need that shock at the end. We
do, and it will be, because it's like just going from absolute chaos, Lilith getting shot, being like, whoa, fuck, and like just like pandemonium, and then the remain calm, everything's under control, and then just silence, and just instead of people dying or the president dying, I really like the idea also the president like getting like rushed out of the place, right before the announcement happens, so he can go and tell everybody, because he's like the one guy that knows that Lilith still exists. But I like that, where it's still as much of an impact at that very last moment where everyone's just standing there as she's dying, silent, just standing there.
Yeah. Like,
that's not, out of all the things we were building up that could potentially happen, that's the one thing I don't think people are going to see coming.
No, definitely not.
And that's
the last image that's the last sound that you hear, and the last image that you see is her dead and 50,000 people or 500,000 people or whatever, 1 billion people standing there silent.
Yeah.
But also after they had just gone hysterical. So it's not just like zombies, like it's like after an emotional thing and then going like that, which is, I think, a different thing. So some of them will still have the horror in their eyes or the tears or something, but they'll still be standing there silent.
Yeah.
That's ultimately going to be the big thing. And that's still how the movie ends. That's always how the movie's end, right? That's been the only consistent thing, is like the movie ends with the silence is deafening and she's dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just like that there's so much more going on, and that you can actually enjoy the last show instead of being like the whole thing being a suspenseful moment. Like, oh my God, are they going to kill the president? Like, are they going to do this? That's still going to be there. But I think she's going to be at the point where she's not going to be worried about it. So every time we cut to her, she's going to be, this is the performance of a lifetime, right? This is the performance. Yep. And we could even make this fucking, I know we've talked about every time we showed a concert, it would be longer and longer. Like the first time you show a show, it's 20 seconds, and then it's a minute, then it's a 3-minute show, and then it's 5 minutes. But like the end, if we can even have like a 5 to 6 minute segment where it's just like a full song or full 2 songs, where you're just so enveloped in it that you almost forget.
Like the end of Bohemian Rhapsody, just like that Live Aid performance.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like a
watching
performance,
and he's basically going to die, or listening to it in a totally different way. So
lost. You almost want people to get lost in that and how amazing it is.
Yep.
And then right at the point where it's like, whoa, this is, and then right then is when it's like,
becomes suddenly apparent.
It's fucking killed. Yeah. And I'm also like, what's up? I'm also like envisioning another moment where so at the beginning, she's on the edge, looking over the edge. In the middle, she goes over the edge and like falls into the ocean. And then at the end, she could be standing on the edge of the stage, kind of having a similar moment. And then ironically, she gets shot and goes the other way. You know, so the first time she's there, she thinks about it, and she turns her back. You think she might fall. Second time, she does go forward. Third time, she's just like at peace and on the edge, and you think she's going to go forward, and she gets shot backwards.
Right.
I think that's just kind of like a microcosm of the 3 stages of the knife that we've talked about. So.
And at what point do it's before or after that final, like that one where she like falls into the water? Aww.
Bye. She says bye.
Bye. I'll see you
I'll
soon.
let you know when I'm in LA.
All right, good. Please do.
Yeah. If I
I
say.
figure out how to get Mexico.
What, you're stealing them?
Like, duh.
Oh, go away. Bye, Sky.
Bye. Sorry to interrupt.
No, no
I
worries.
love you both.
Bye, Sky.
Where is it before? Like, where does the idea begin to fester or build that maybe the president's going to get assassinated? I feel like there should be like a good point. Is there a point in there? Like, is that when Lilith's like going and investigating this stuff with Jennifer and like, or when she's like out getting fucked up on all those drugs? Is that like, I forgot when that becomes like originally before we had this discussion, when did that really start building up? Because
Yeah.
I like the idea of like having a sequence or a series of sequences that kind of like, oh yeah, like like Lilith has her time to like investigate what's going on, and she does for a little bit. But then is it then like she has that bender and then she's in the hospital, and then it's like then it just starts to become more than about the president. It's like, oh, there's fucking all these people getting vaccinated all over the place. They're launching satellites into the air. They're talking about going to DEFCON 1 because of what's going on in the Ukraine. Like, it's like, at first it's like, okay, I can handle this. I can just warn the president. But then, like, shit goes down, and then she starts, like, it's like, this is like way bigger than I thought it was. I don't know when that was, but I just, however it is, I like the idea of having a moment where she's, you know, thinks it's as simple as just warning the president and stopping all this stuff, but then like gets cut off at the pass, and suddenly it's like way bigger than she can control. No allies around her. Instead of becoming like the Mad Queen, she just like goes into depression mode.
Yeah. Yeah, there isn't really a moment that happens like that. I mean, they when we see that first scene, you know, when we go to the Pentagon, that's the first time we hear these people like speak ill of the president, right? So that's the first like seed that's planted, but you don't think that there's an agenda against him. Well, a little bit. I guess that's kind of like, well, these people in this room who all seem powerful at the Pentagon are speaking negatively of the president, and like
that's good.
Very negatively of the president.
Yeah,
like, fuck
that's
this
good.
guy, basically. But there really isn't much more after that, from what I can remember.
So what is it that
until she's reading, until they're like, we got the document, and they're in the car and they're talking to Lilith on the phone, and
Matt and Jennifer. This is before Jennifer kills Matt.
Yeah, and we don't see that.
Right.
But because they're being chased like a car chase, so you think they both got killed in the car accident, and then I'm now thinking you see Jennifer later, and
right,
it makes more sense to why she was so gullible and whatever. But it's not until they're like in the car reading that, like, and then that you start thinking that they might kill the president. That's like the first time, and that's like 100-something pages in. So there's like the introduction at like 60 or 70 or 80 pages where they're in the Pentagon, and then 100 and something. So there's only a couple little things. So there's not really.
And so that's fine. It doesn't seem like there must be any real major changes that need to be made. It's just kind of like in our minds now, knowing that it's not like we need to figure out how to write it and depict it so that they know that the president's going to get killed, or they think that. But it's like with what's in there right now, just having that whatever montage scene or sequence before she goes on stage, where we just show like, yeah, there's all this shit going on in the world right now. It's like that Domino's V thing, like, yeah, shit's about to go down. And we've already established that they hate the president. We've established they're injecting everybody with the swine flu. We've established the satellites. We've established the war. But then, like, in the moment right before all that, we just, like, reiterate all those in a montage or something.
Yeah.
So then you go out, and it's just like, well, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen.
Yeah. And just to distract, right? So, like, we have to have.
And what about this? What about there's like, because there's that idea too. It's like Lilith is compelled to warn people. I still like that. And the idea, it's like when it comes down to it, she doesn't know what to fucking say. Like, what that could all be part of the plan. If I say the wrong thing, I want to say something that maybe she's having, like, maybe she has like a little dialogue, you know, and she's by herself, and like Melissa shows up, or Melissa's there.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like there's that scene in Shutter Island. You remember that? Remember Shutter Island?
Yeah, I only watched
Leonardo-
that once, so I don't remember it that well.
All right, so there's this part where, like, because Leonardo DiCaprio's wife has been dead, for a long time. We're not sure. We think we know why she died, and he's trying to figure some shit out about the prison or the mental institution. But there's this scene where, as Leonardo DiCaprio starts losing his mind, and we're thinking it's just because of the drugs they're putting him on, where it's pouring rain, and then a door opens up, and he's like sits up, and it's really weird, and like this woman comes in, she turns around and lowers her coat, and it's his wife, it's his dead wife, standing there in the room, and they have this moment where they embrace each other, and it's this really cool scene in the movie where it like starts like raining inside the room. It's very like surreal,
Yeah.
dreamlike. But there could be like a dialogue with Melissa, like in a moment where Lilith feels like she's got no one. Maybe she's just like in the dressing room before.
After, like, maybe they do kill Chris, and maybe they take him out, and she's just in there before the show.
Yeah. And then like Melissa shows up, and it's this like the first time since Jeff was alive that she has a conversation with somebody on like a heart-to-heart level where she tells what she's really feeling, because everything else has been like, she's in the grind of the whole Liquid Crystal show and everything. It's just been a lot of like signing autographs and like being on public press conferences being like, yeah, and the show's coming out, and like you're doing music videos. She's not being real at all. And then there's that one moment after Chris gets killed that maybe Melissa comes in, and she has this heart-to-heart with Melissa, and she's just like, Melissa tells him like, you have to warn them.
Yeah. Oh, Melissa tells her. Okay.
Yeah, Melissa tells you have to warn them. And then like Lilith is like,
so representing
warn
like
who about what?
A certain part of her consciousness that's like still like the human thing, like, or the robotic thing, like, yeah, you have to do the right thing, and you gotta warn him, he's like, he was my dad, and he's like a father to you, and the country needs him, and
yeah,
or to like just kind of add to the domino scene, right? Like amplify the what's at stake, how so many things are at stake.
Yes.
Maybe. And then Lilith is like, what did she respond and say like, yeah,
she should just be like, how? Warn them.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
And it's just like this moment, like, I don't know. But you gotta do something. You have to do something. And it's just that moment of Lilith struggling with the fact that she knows that there's something going on, absolutely. And she's got, a couple lines of intel about what could be happening. And it's just that moment of her, like, and it'll also establish that moment when she walks out on stage and she has the opportunity to say something. But instead of saying something, she realizes it's her. But it's like in her expressions, and it's not exactly clear. She doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
But it's like we do have a sense of what's going through her head, that she should say something, but what does she say?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe she could say something that's like,
well, the opposite. There's like a moment, right, where it's like, oh, here she goes, and then she looks around. I mean, there's a lot of these cliche moments in movies where it's like they're like this, and the camera pans around all the side, and it shows the crowd, and she sees the president, and she's thinking, and she's like, and then she says, yeah, something else, something either generic, like, thanks for coming out to the show tonight. She turns into like, because she's still a performer. Like, even though she could be in the green room, like feeling like shit, like her life is like horrible. But when she gets on stage, she's all. That's what makes it believable. Because I could see that as being a note from people being like, well, how is she so fucked up? And then all these cues and all these things are so important to the show, and manipulating people and all the right lines and all the right places. Like, how can you possibly say that she's this way and she needs to be perfect? You can't say that unless we portray her as the greatest performer
of all time.
Yeah. Right. So she could be in that, like, you could see that look on her when she gets out there, like when she's in regular human mode, and she's like, just by her body language, and where she would say something, and then all of a sudden she either has the moment out there where she's like, she's free, and then she just kind of morphs into the greatest performer ever. And then it's like, thanks for coming out tonight. Like, it's going to be a great show. Like, maybe not that, but
How about
like
this?
turns into that mode.
How about this? When she comes out on, so she's all fucked up and everything, right? Behind the, let's just say behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
She's all fucked up, but then as soon as she walks on stage and the audience starts cheering, she's immediately in, like Lilith, the greatest performer mode.
Yeah.
And she says that, like, this is a great show. Are you guys ready to have some good times tonight? Or something like that. And
something more clever, though. Like a clever
yeah.
version of, like, the generic thing when you come out on stage. Yeah.
Yes. So she comes out, guns a-blazing, just like, yeah, we're here. It's going to be great. Thanks for showing up. Obviously way better than that. But then she, like, let's say it's a piano. She sits down at the piano right before it, it's like there's the first cue of the show. Everything's got to be timed right? And there's like a clock counting down to the cue, like a countdown. And like right as she's about to play, like right as she's about to like hit the piano keys, like all of a sudden it like dawns on her. And then it's like she comes out as the performer, and then right before she's about to hit her mark, that's where she has her moment.
Okay.
And then just and maybe says something like, this one's for Melissa, or it's like
we're more ambiguous than that. Like,
a little bit more ambiguous than that, and maybe something about freedom too. It's just maybe mentioning something about how fucked up and crazy the world is, and all you people came to this show for some reason. You could be all like getting in a bunker right now because we're about to go to war with Ukraine or whatever.
Yeah.
She wouldn't say that, but like she's like,
you're
all here for some reason.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, let's be free. She just say something about like having like let's set ourselves free or something. I don't know, something there that she says something right before she starts playing.
Uh-huh. And those are her last like non-singing words.
Yeah, like her basically Lilith's last words.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way.
Before she goes into the
This doesn't have to be part of it, but I in high school, the first time I took mushrooms, it was a chocolate, and I'm never that great at taking new things because I have a lot of fear in me, or I have a lot of anxiety. So if a new feeling comes inside, I'm scared that I'm gonna die, or something bad's gonna happen.
Right.
So I took this chocolate at a buddy's house, and then I drove home, and it started kicking in when I was driving home. Luckily, it was only like a 3-minute drive. So I was driving to my parents' house, and it started coming on, and I probably only took like a bite, literally. I was like 16 or 17. And I just like naturally rolled down the window and stuck my head out the window like, oh shit, I just got to get home. And I got home, and then my buddies came to pick me up, and I wouldn't get in the car because it was too like claustrophobic to me. And I was like in my front yard, and my parents were inside. I might have had like family friends over or something like that. They didn't know I was home. I parked in the driveway just on the side, and my buddies came to pick me up, and they kind of knew what was happening. And I was like, I'm not okay. I was being ridiculous, like a dumb 16-year-old who didn't know what he was doing. And I think I might have been pacing, and I just wouldn't get in the car. This guy, he had a Volkswagen Jetta, a classic one. The door was open. They were all sitting in the car, and they're just like, just get in and we'll go. Just get in and we'll go. And my good friend Al Ryan, my best friend of Milwaukee, they live up the street. And his mom walked by, and they're like, is he okay? Is he okay? And it was like kind of making a little bit of a scene. And they're like, just get in the car. And I finally like got in, and I sat down, and they were playing this guy is very eclectic, Ian, musically. And they were playing a song from Woodstock. And I think I just saw something recently where this was the first guy to go on because there was such a delay and all this stuff. I forget his name, but the song's called Freedom. And he made it up on the spot, like at just vibing off of, because he needed to kill more time because the other artists couldn't get in. They had to helicopter all these artists in because the roads were blocked for miles. So they were like, hey, buddy, you need to keep playing because nobody else is
like, freedom, freedom.
Yeah, exactly. So he made that up on the spot. And that song started playing in my buddy's car. And I finally felt comfortable getting in. And then I finally, obviously, things were coming down as well. But I'll never forget, I was like, oh, this. And his voice is all gritty. He's like, freedom! It's like really gritty and deep and just like raw. And now that I know he like made it up on the spot, Like, I feel like maybe not covering that song, but some sort of, maybe the cue isn't, has to be necessarily timed for
Right.
Lilith, but she has to initiate the beginning of the show.
Right.
Maybe she has a little pre-show riff of something, or like there's something in there where maybe that could be just brought into it, even if it's just like a little mix up from one of her songs, just because it is literally just her, or literally just that lyric of freedom, and that he's just on the guitar. I think maybe she just grabs the acoustic guitar instead, or something along those lines, because that song is just always imprinted on me, and it's literally just a person.
What if the cue? What if it's like in all the rehearsals they've done, it's Lilith with an acoustic guitar out there singing some song, just like kind of like all darkness, just like one spotlight on Lilith with like an acoustic guitar, and she's supposed to sing some song, some like, you know, fabricated Liquid Crystal song or whatever. and then like the cue for the show to begin is when she stands up and takes the guitar, like walks around the stage, and then smashes the guitar on the stage, and then like fucking like lasers and just like that's when so the cue
that's
is
fucking badass, dude. That's badass.
yeah, smashing the guitar. So it's like she's supposed to sing a song. It's not as, I mean, they want to control the lyrics and everything, but the cue that starts everything off is she has to smash the guitar at like a certain point.
So anything before that is kind of up in the air.
So she goes out there, and I could totally see her just fucking singing that song. Like the freedom song, literally.
Yeah. And without necessarily prefacing it in being, because you don't want to be too on the nose. Like we have a habit of doing that, and everybody does, I'm sure, because you want to get the point across, and then, you know, you take things away gradually to make it more subtle. But her saying like, it just, you know, everyone needs to be free, or being more direct like that, you know, I think that might be a little bit more subtle. And there's a really easy way to portray that this is off schedule by her playing this. Is you just got to get like the band. All you have to do is look at the bandmates, be like, you know, look around, like
it just goes on and on, just saying freedom and freedom, freedom over and over and over again. And it's almost like getting like redundant. We could see her like really getting into it. Yeah, and like
well, and that's why I've likened it when I mentioned Whiplash, the end of Whiplash. He comes back out and he just starts complaining out of nowhere, and everyone's like, "What?" He's like, "I'll cue you in," like to the other bandmates. Like, I'll cue you in, and then the main guy is like, "What the fuck's going on?" And then eventually, he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, bring it, keep going."
Yeah, because that's what he wanted the whole fucking time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great like parallel to Mandala with Barnhart and Lilith.
Oh man, I didn't get it when I originally watched it, but I was watching these screenwriting videos, and somebody pointed out that scene, and then there's a whole clip of it online, and it was like, oh shit, yeah, that's like very, very, very similar, you know, driven to the edge in a very different way. But I like it, so it doesn't have to be that freedom song, it doesn't have to be anything like that, but I could just see it being more musical than, because she's a musical genius, you know. So maybe she could improvise initially that kind of portrays to the audience that she has accepted her fate, but not so directly that we're telling the audience exactly what's happening. Like, I feel this way and I feel that way, and the world is.
As far as she knows, everyone in the world's like about to die. So she just wants to put on the best show of all time, so that people can enjoy themselves.
And then I really like the guitar smashing as like the cue, but like maybe there could be one thing before that one, so that the band knows, like she'll be like doing the freedom thing or whatever we have her doing, and then there's maybe the stand up is the cue or something like that. She does a step or she moves over here, so the band knows that, like, oh shit, she is, now we're going. And then they're gearing up as soon as she sets up to smash it. Then they blast into the actual Liquid Crystal shit. That's fucking badass, dude. That's super badass. But like that initial part is her freedom, is her freestyle, is whatever she wants it to be, because the show doesn't start until she says it starts, right?
Yeah.
And that's always been her power, I guess, is it doesn't start until she says it starts.
Right.
And then they end it, but she's like, no, I'm gonna take this time beforehand and I'm gonna let it go. And that's when that can kind of explain everything. But then still have the whole show be portraying a little bit. Still don't really know what's going to happen. But
Yeah,
it's
I feel
still a
like
very
that.
Liquid Crystal show. Like maybe the whole rest of the show, she's still perfect. She doesn't take any liberties with anything.
It
The
should
whole
just
show
be
is
all the
exactly,
program, the whole rehearsal.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
that one part right before she breaks the guitar that's like we see. It's like
yeah.
Lilith's final words. Like this is Lilith's message to the world. This is her being free and just like you said, accepting the fate, and also just looking at it like we're all in this together at this point. Like she doesn't have anybody left at this point, so the only one she has left is the audience
Well, the president,
and and the president.
but he's part of the audience.
He's part of the audience.
He's always been part of the audience.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be
That's
that would
cool.
be epic. And then just the whole like final performance of Liquid Crystal should be just like a microcosm of everything that's happened visually,
Yep.
not just in the world, but in her life and everything. And just I like the visual of just having this, you're in this giant dome and it's just completely dark. You getting little flashes.
We're
of
not in the dome though.
What's that?
The last show is the one that's the only one.
The
not
Lincoln
in the dome.
Monument?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
That's the
meant.
one. That's the one that's not in the dome.
Right. That's right. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
But it's all dark.
Yeah.
It's all completely
very
dark.
Yeah.
She's like the only little glowing light.
Mhm.
This big wide shots and just kind of like this one little thing. But then when she smashes the guitar, it's just like, dragon mandala holograms, just like, 38-piece fucking like band with an orchestra and fucking like lasers.
Dude, and who knows what the fucking did we talk about Spider-Man already?
Which the new one?
Yeah.
Far From Home?
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
That's like generic exploitation of technology, like all drones portraying stuff that's not there. Like that was like textbook. Like if we would have seen that in the house, we'd have been like, "Oh my god, that's like." Jeremy would have said that's an anti-David Wilcock movie. That's what that movie is. That's what that would have been. So it's like exploitation of technology. It's like 1,000 million drones projecting stuff, creating these illusions. Like we could even.
That's what that's about?
I mean, that's the bad guy. He fakes like a bad guy through all these drones being showing
Holograms and shit.
holograms. Yeah.
So that's basically what that 9/11 documentary is about, with the holograms and the planes weren't there. It was all fucking satellites and holograms and shit.
Exactly. And that's what that movie was about.
Oh, great.
It was just tricking Spider-Man, basically.
Mysterio. Makes sense.
Yeah, there you go. So like the final show could be all whatever we want it to be. Like it couldn't be too big, it couldn't be too small, it couldn't be too ridiculous, it couldn't be too fabulous or loud or quiet or full of lasers, full of dragons.
It's just going to be the best show of all time.
Yeah, it's going to be the best show
And
of all
you're going
time.
to like literally get lost in the performance so much that when she gets shot, you'll have already forgotten that like something was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be like literally that story of Uncle Bruce when he did the laser show and wherever it was, and usually did it in this one town, and it was a super success. Everyone's like cheering at the rock and roll and the lasers, and then he goes to another town and does it. Do you remember this story? Where he goes and does it, and then it's like silent, and then they're like, "Oh, something must be wrong," and let's play the next song. So they went through the whole thing, but no one reacted. So Uncle Bruce thought the whole thing was like a flop. So he goes downstairs and he sees everyone is just sitting in the audience wide awake like this. Just like staring at the screen, that the mandalas and the laser shit just hypnotized everybody. And they were all just like sitting there. Like he thought everybody was just like this, didn't care about the show. Because the previous night, everyone was like at a college town. They're like, woo, yeah, Pink Floyd, woo. And then like he goes to the next one and it's like, I don't know if they like it. No one's saying anything. He goes down there. Everyone's just like, that's how I feel like everyone in the audience is going to feel during this last performance of the Liquid Crystal show. Everyone's just going to be like, all the buildup and everything is just going to be like gone temporarily until she gets shot. And they'll be like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, and then snap
it's
back
like the one thing that you didn't see coming ultimately at that point.
Well, they did. Maybe they did, but so that's what that whole concert can be, is like no matter what you thought was going to happen, we're going to try to temporarily erase all of that and just give you a great show and then bring you back to reality very dramatically, very violently.
Yeah.
so that you feel what the crowd feels, right? Because we're turning them into the audience of the show, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because that was one of our notes too. It was like turn it into one perspective, and that we're all watching. We're all the president. We're all the people in the crowd. We're all Melissa. We're all Matt and Jeff and the parents from all the backstory that we wrote. They're all back in there. Like everybody's at the show.
There could, maybe another line of disbelief or suspension of disbelief, misdirection. That's the word that could be in there. Is some sort of like discussion, maybe from Vincelli, or planning of like what happens after the show. It's like maybe even Lilith's like, what? So like, what are we even going to do after this final show? It's like, oh, we're taking the show. Is it an international show? Does the Dome go to other countries?
We've never.
It's like maybe this whole thing's happening in America, and it's like, oh, well, after this, we're going to Europe. So it's like, you think you're tired now. Wait till we get to Japan. So we're already thinking that like
Japan's not in Europe, dude.
Oh yeah. get your euros because we're going to Africa. Something like that, where it's just like they just to kind of build that, just have that idea where we plant the idea in people's heads that Lilith is going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
When she's
I like
not.
that. I like that because there's nothing that suggests that.
Yeah.
Like this is the last show. They don't mention anything after that. There's no future plans. There's no 5-year plan. There's no nothing. It's all what's happening right now. Oh, the next show we just planned the next show. There's no talk of anything after that. You're right.
There should be.
Good point.
That'll also confuse and distract from the fact that when she gets killed, like what?
Well, right, because that would sit really deeply in people's heads. Like, oh, okay, well they have plans afterwards. So that would be. It wouldn't be like don't look at Lilith. It would just be like another reason not to look at Lilith, right? So,
yeah.
Well, they got plans in Europe, so they need her, obviously.
Yeah.
We made a point that she's the one, and we see how spectacular she is, and she is the one, right? So they couldn't do it without her.
Right.
You're right. They couldn't do it without her.
No.
But we think that they're going to keep doing it, but this is it. I like that a lot. Yeah. So talk of more Beyond, because we've never mentioned Beyond Mandala except for the red card scene.
Yeah, the red card scene, which still totally could happen with the music video where like everyone comes back from the dead.
Oh my god. Yeah. Well, yeah, I like that too. I don't know how serious we have to be about that, but or we can just play this music video at the end of the movie.
Yeah, yeah, dude, that music video. That's what I need to learn next. Is it do 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 do?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was one of the funniest fucking times at waking up, basically still drunk at the model.
Oh, we were both still drunk for sure.
Yeah.
That's what made that brunch so much better.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, oh, we gotta get out of the hotel. I don't fucking go. Can we leave our bags here? Okay, yeah, we're just gonna go. I don't know.
The fucking 5G.
fucking walking by that guy. Fucking 5G.
Like, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
That's so funny, man.
If we ever doubt, exactly can't make that up.
But yeah, I remember you saying too. We do have to talk more about brunch as well with Val Kilmer.
Oh yeah, talk of after.
Yeah, I think those things. Yeah, just like Lilith, the distraction or the foresight into what Lilith's going to do after this show's over. What was the other big thing that we just kind of discussed was, that there's pandemonium and we don't know what's going to happen, but we know something's going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
And that provides the reasoning why she ends up deciding not to say anything when she has an opportunity to say something.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that she's going through all this other shit and she's the greatest performer of all time, and she just wants to be free, and she wants everyone to be free. So the best way to do that is to just fucking sing her heart out.
Yeah. Because that's all ultimately what's always been her passion, and she's never been. We could even make a subtle reference. I mean, it's a cliche thing amongst artists, I'm sure, and that's why they do it. That's why they perform. But it's like they continually say, you know, there's nothing like that feeling, right? That's when you're on stage and you're the it, and you're doing what you love. That's the ultimate freedom, you know.
Did you see
You say that in an interview or something? No, I haven't seen Rocket Man yet. You like it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it more than Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay, I wasn't a huge fan of Bohemian Rhapsody. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was all right. There were like some of the musical performance stuff was great.
Yeah,
but
cool. It was fun, and it was like
a musical. It was a straight up musical with like across the universe style.
Yeah,
bizarre shit going on, but leaned more into Elton John's like fucked up life and his drug abuse and like his.
It was more real than Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody it was like a family film.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there was some like, you know, montage of like, you know, gay bar, like, you know, like him looking at some guy, another guy looking at him, and like, you know, seeing somebody do drugs and being like, oh, it's like this one's like, you know, all the drugs, all the sex, everything.
Interesting, and that's interesting because Elton John's still alive. And Freddie Mercury's not alive.
Well, dude, because you saw Kingsman Part 2. You saw Kingsman Part 2, right?
That was the one with the I think so, yeah.
Like Julianne Moore with like the drugs that they were like infecting the drugs around the world. Both those movies are very Mandala resonant, obviously. Like the first one with Samuel Jackson, but the second one was where
I don't know if I saw the second one. Maybe I did.
Okay, because Elton John's in it.
The actual Elton John?
The actual Elton John's in the movie. So you haven't seen it? Yeah, well, without giving any spoilers, because the guy that plays Elton John is the main dude from.
Right. Okay, so that's why I was confused. Yeah.
So I think they met each other while they were on set and talked about it, and they were like, "Oh, well,
interesting.
Play me in the movie, or I'll play you in the movie." And it's the same company that produced Kingsman, that produced Rocket Man as well.
Well, that makes sense.
But another good movie to watch, just for the sake of Mandala and seeing performances.
Yeah,
dude, did you see that fucking Black Mirror episode with Miley Cyrus yet?
I haven't watched it yet. I started watching it. I know I'm fucking up.
You gotta watch that one. You'll see it when the time is right. But there's definitely some Mandala shit going on in there, big time.
Yeah, it's all research at this point. Like, and we need to know what's already been done in that realm so we can take from it and also not duplicate it completely.
Yeah.
Because this story's been told before in other ways, but we want to do it right. Like, it's always goes back to David Satlin. It's like what you were talking about with Quentin Tarantino, like changing history. It's like being creative is not necessarily making something that's never been made before, but it's making something that has been made a million times, but in a different, better way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Mandala is, like, through and through. Like, there's nothing super groundbreaking about it, except for it's based on real science, which is, I think, incredible.
Yeah, it's a social commentary, like fuck.
It's more real. It's science fiction, right, instead of science fiction, and I think that is the thing that sets it above other things. Maybe we should emphasize that more somehow. Maybe when we're on the press junket.
Yeah.
Out telling everybody, it's like, this is actually possible. So, but besides that, it's a classic deception story and making you like a tragedy and commentary on society and all that stuff. But we're doing it in a different way than they have done it before. So I do need to watch the Black Mirror episode.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Have you seen Dave? It was very current. Dave Chappelle came out with a new stand-up.
No, he did on Netflix
yesterday. Yeah.
No shit. Oh, dude, I'm gonna watch that.
Oh man.
Is it good?
Dude, this dude still got it. Like, for sure. I wish I could watch it with somebody. But I watched it with myself yesterday. And he's one of the best of all time, like, for sure. And he still got it. And I love that he came out with some, like, what, a year
2017. He just spent
2 of them, yeah.
Yeah.
And this one Oh man, you got to watch it for sure.
I'm so gonna watch it, dude.
Yeah.
That was one. I was actually. I remember watching that Age of Spin one. I was coming down off of a LSD journey, and I was like finally like back to reality to the point where I could watch something on the TV, and I was like, let's see what's on Netflix, and fucking Dave Chappelle, and that was the funniest fucking thing. It was like the perfect thing to see at that time. So I'm very excited. There's a new
Well,
one.
it's there. If you open up Netflix, I'm sure the first thing you'll see is Sticks and Stones is called.
It came out yesterday.
Yeah.
Wow, perfect.
Yeah, I watched it yesterday. It's like an hour, I think, and then there's like a 22-minute epilogue. But
Wow.
I mean, it's social commentary for sure. No Trump stuff again, which is solid because that's what it is. But he's just very good at what he does. He's very good at what he does. He knows he's very good, but he's very good at what he does.
Yeah.
And he has he's a black man and we're white men, and it's just a different perspective, and he can say things that we can't, and he has perspectives that we don't. But it's still fucking hilarious. Really,
Dude.
worth
Thank you
watching.
for telling me that. I'm gonna watch that tonight.
All right, so to close it out, because we've been going for like 4 hours, but it's been 3, but brunch ideas, because this is my next, this is going to probably be as I say this, or thinking it's probably going to not be true, but this will be the easiest script I've ever written, because it's so much my life for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
So it'll be really easy to be like, oh, I can do this, this, and that. It's like I can come up with 100 pages really easily. So I know we joked about Val Kilmer being the head chef, and he's the one narrating maybe, and it starts off with him saying he invented brunch, and he's like the cranky, crotchety old white guy in the back of the kitchen.
Brunch.
These fucking kids think they know about brunch. I fucking invented brunch.
I know. That's such a great concept.
But any thoughts beyond? I know we've talked about the brunch trilogy and it eventually burning down, but as far as a first movie, I can come up with a lot of the in between, what happens in brunch, obviously, because I work brunch every weekend.
Yeah.
And all the classic stuff that happens, but storyline. I can have 10 characters. I can have 3 characters. Thinking about waiting. Obviously, there's 6 characters maybe that are kind of the people that you follow around, and you go from the kitchen to the.
So what about
what's the arc maybe?
Yeah.
What's the arc?
I would say the arc. Well,
should we have him narrating the whole time, or is it an intro and outro thing?
I would say an intro and outro.
Okay.
I would say an intro and outro.
That's how I'm feeling too.
Yeah, and he's the old short order chef in the back of some random restaurant.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's randomly popular for brunch now.
Yes, super popular for brunch, but he works in the back. He's all disheveled and argues everybody's drinking fucking just vodka straight, out of the bottle. And it's the whole I invented brunch, and then there's the whole movie is pretty much a flashback to when he was in his prime and he was the owner of a restaurant. Let's say it starts off after that little I invented brunch thing, flashback to the past. And it's just when he buys his very first restaurant, and it's a super success right off the bat. Or no, maybe it's not a success, but he buys it's not this guy starting his business, starting his restaurant, and but then discovers that he could change the menu and discovers brunch, and then it becomes the most successful restaurant of all time. And lines out the door and shit. But then maybe he wants to franchise it. It's the story of the American dream, starting a business, being successful, but then getting full of yourself and losing everything because you spread yourself too thin. And you get too fucked up all the time. And then there's some other, business that comes in, buys it up or something. Uh-huh. So it's
or just steals his idea or
yeah.
Or
yeah.
Okay.
So it's we see him as this disheveled guy in the back of a place, but then the majority of the movie is he's on top, good looking young Val Kilmer kind of guy. And he's running the whole show and he's super successful. But then, it's how did it all fall apart? The story of how it all fell apart.
So
But
how
in-
did it all fall apart? He was just an alcoholic, or like the market like it was oversaturated with new cool. Because brunch is always about like being cool, right? It's always about the new cool place. So
Yeah.
if you're like the old school and you're kind of a not a brunch spot, but you invent brunch, and then another spot is built literally to be a brunch place, that's going to be way cooler.
And his wife ends up leaving him for that other guy.
Or they oh, I like that or they, because there's a thing that happened in Milwaukee where this couple owned a couple of bars and they split up, and one took the bigger successful one, and the husband took the smaller, more kitschier one. So maybe like they have a divorce, she splits off and she starts like the super cool brunch place. That's just another.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So inherently that associates brunch with him hating it.
Yeah.
Always,
Yeah,
forever.
always.
Because she made it cool. He made it like popular, but she made it cool.
Yeah, she took
He
it,
fucking
and
hates-
then in the divorce,
Yeah.
and he loses everything, ends up just becoming an alcoholic, and like, and a lot of comedy ensuing shit of like him like putting on disguises, going into like the brunch place, just trying to like cause shit, like going into the back and just trying to tell people what to cook and shit, and just like, this place sucks.
I fucking invented brunch.
Isn't that you, Val?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Oh, he's got like a
Oh,
fake
somebody-
mustache, like fucking like the Ninja Turtles disguise on.
The glasses with the nose and the mustache.
yeah.
Because that'll fool him.
Yeah. So it's just like,
Okay,
it's
so
almost
is
kind
he
of,
constantly? So is he just working? So he doesn't. The restaurant that he works at now, he doesn't own, right? He's just like the cook. That's how far he's fallen, or does
like,
he
I
own
can
this
s-
restaurant?
well, I see maybe like the inciting incident after the whole, like, I'll spin you a yarn about when I invented brunch. And then we see him, and maybe he's like the manager at some place that the other guy owns the business. And the inciting incident is him inventing brunch, and becoming successful. And then maybe like the owner of the building like dies or something, and he takes over the business. So the inciting incident essentially is him becoming the owner of an establishment that he
Okay.
was only working at.
Okay.
So like maybe or something, like he comes up. We see him not in his full glory yet, but he's super motivated, and he's everyone loves him. He's got a great family, but he still wants to create that thing. Kind of reminds me of you've seen The Founder about McDonald's
No, I haven't.
with Michael Keaton.
No, 'cause I have
Um,
a weird feeling about that. So
It's a good movie.
Is it?
I liked it a lot. Makes you really want to have McDonald's for the first like half hour of the movie. But then like by the last half hour of the movie, you're like, I don't want fucking McDonald's. But it's a similar, it's not a similar story, but Michael Keaton is like a door-to-door salesman, and he's trying to sell like these milkshake machines to individual restaurants, and no one wants to buy them, but he's like classic businessman, like, oh yeah, well, we'll just keep going. And then he ends up finding McDonald's, and it blows him away, like how quickly they can make the burgers and how good it is and how simple it is. So he goes,
he didn't invent McDonald's.
no,
Oh, okay.
this is a true story. Some
Interesting.
fucking like sleazy businessman who found a McDonald's, which was basically like In-N-Out,
Yeah.
the first type of place like that. And he went over to them and was like, oh, well, we could turn this into a great business. And they're like, no, I don't know. We kind of like just keep it at mom and pop. He's like, no, we can make it big. And then eventually they go into partnership. They turn it into a franchise, becomes McDonald's.
Huh.
But then he ends up, he's an asshole basically.
Uh-huh.
But he was like in dire straits in the beginning and he was opportunistic and saw an opportunity. So maybe something, not exactly like that, but maybe
Okay.
Val Kilmer has an opportunity of some sort. Like he's doing good, he's doing okay, but he has an opportunity that allows him to be like the owner of a restaurant.
Okay.
Like maybe he doesn't start off as the owner, but something happens that causes him to be the owner.
Okay.
And then in that process, he somehow invents lunch and it becomes like a hit. gets billboards with his face on it, and like the TV commercials like come on down to so and so's, and it's like I imagine it taking place in the 80s.
Yeah, I think it has to at this point, but then it doesn't like kick off because brunch didn't kick off till what, like 5, 8, 9 years ago, something like that. That's when it became popular. So there's a lot that could have happened.
So it could be in the 90s then.
Could be in the 90s, and then it just keeps evolving to a point where he just hates it more and more, but like is inevitably, I think just shitty things just keep happening to him maybe.
Yeah,
One
and
of
it's
those
also
guys.
combined with the fact he's an alcoholic and he starts getting like kind of full of himself. And
that's part of the reason why brunch is so associated with alcohol too. Like, because you go out early, it gives you an early excuse to drink, and maybe he was one of the first people to put like alcoholic drinks on the brunch menu, instead of just orange juice or coffee or something like that. Or he's like, I invented the Bloody Mary or the mimosa or something like that. Something along those lines. Yeah, that is a lot of ways it could go. He's a great character. I can't wait to talk to Val Kilmer about this.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
But then, like, I mean, yeah, I guess I can fill in the gaps with the everyday brunch life, but I don't want to make it like the only main movie that this would be synonymous with. It obviously is Waiting, and you don't want to make like a waiting movie, but every restaurant kind of is similar to that, right? Like everybody feels the same way, all the cooks feel the same way, all the servers feel the same way. So should there be some sort of epic evolution, or should it be like a day in the life kind of thing? I mean, because there's a lot of things that could happen between.
I feel like it's a day in the life, but it's also it's not a rags to riches story. It's a riches to rags story.
Yeah. So the ultimate arc is Val Kilmer descending into being a line cook.
Yeah.
After finding his way up the ladder. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in between that is just like the restaurant that he currently works at. And then maybe versus the restaurant that his ex-wife owns or something like that.
Yeah. There's that's like a whole thing. It probably in the second or so act when you have the wife's restaurant, his restaurant competing with each other, and his starts to go downhill, and then he starts to act even crazier to just try to thwart whatever she's doing. And I can almost see like even like Danny McBride type attitudes. Oh, which reminds me, have you seen The Righteous Gemstones yet?
I've never even heard of that.
You haven't even heard of it?
No.
Dude, it's on HBO. Danny McBride, John Goodman, and the guy from Workaholics, I think.
Which one?
I'm not sure. I didn't really watch that show, but
probably Adam Devine.
Yeah, is the guy with the short black hair. I don't know. Maybe it's not Workaholics.
It's probably him. Well, yeah.
But it's about an evangelical Christian church run by John Goodman and his family, the Gemstones, and it is hilarious, dude.
It's a series?
It's a series on HBO. It just started last week.
And that gives you thoughts and ideas.
It made me think because of Danny McBride
character.
Yeah, the way Danny McBride can be. It almost reminds me of even in Eastbound and Down, where he used to be the greatest, a great baseball player. But when we see him, he's like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And then eventually he becomes a baseball player again, but he's still a piece of shit.
And that's Val Kilmer as the brunch master?
Yeah, in a way, that certain aspects of that character can be like that, where he's just this goofy-ass fucking guy that just, the more drunk he gets and the more disempowered he gets, the more reckless he gets, the more he just fucks everything up for himself, blaming everybody else for it. To the point where he's just in the back of some restaurant no one knows about, just being I fucking invented brunch. Some old cook in the back about life.
I like that. That's a lot of depth we just added to that. Shit. That's great. Oh yeah, good. Who else is back there with him? He's got to have at least one guy that we know about that's like the second guy in the kitchen.
In the in the flat in the beginning.
In all of it. Maybe
Oh,
the
just
guy that he just kind of kept with him, or maybe just in the beginning. But like a
maybe
guy that
like a Penn and Teller
yeah,
relationship. There's
right,
just
exactly.
one other guy that's like always with him that
Yeah, he
like is
just brings him
lackey.
with him. Yeah, exactly. But he's good at what he does too. Maybe he's quieter. Maybe he just amplifies what Val Kilmer does, or maybe
Yeah,
he's
it's
his
like his
own.
minion.
Maybe he's his own weird guy who's always like, fuck you, dude. But he just keeps him around, or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
And you're like, why does he keep him around? Or you're like, of course, this guy is always around. It's just really hard, and then that's why it's great because it's really hard not to think of waiting with all this stuff. But that's literally the biggest movie and the only movie I can think of in this market. Where I just read an article about it. It's like the service industry is the largest growing industry in America because for a lot of other bullshit reasons, because people are getting laid off of other jobs or they have kids and they can't afford a house and they need flexible schedules and everybody can serve and work in the industry. But everybody can relate is what I'm saying.
yeah.
Like this is a great market to tap into. Like if it's a movie about working at a restaurant, how many people in America are like, oh my God, I want to see that because I work in a fucking restaurant. Like
Yep, yep.
so many people.
And that's just the most hilarious concept of the story of the guy who invented brunch.
Yeah, right.
That's that in
Exactly.
itself, like sold. Like if I was a producer and you just
Right.
that's the pitch right there.
And because a lot of these people that are so trendy with brunch, the people who haven't worked in restaurants still love brunch. So they're like, oh, like we've talked about this. Literally, if it was called brunch, there's a million people that would go see a movie called Brunch if they never saw anything about it. Hey, do you
Yep.
want to go see a movie called Brunch? Like, what's it about? It's about brunch. It's like, oh,
It could be a cult classic.
yeah,
Like
bro,
there
I'm
could
in.
be a style of Bloody Mary. Like all the drinks that are in that movie could then become popular drinks at
Mhm,
local brunch places where
mhm.
they want the Bloody Mary from brunch, from the movie Brunch.
Right. And maybe he can. We always talk about this at work because everybody there's a couple places that there's a place called the Wiener Circle in Chicago. It's by Wrigley Field where they have established this rapport where they cuss you out. Like the
Yeah,
people
you
who
told
work
me about that.
people who work there are just like, yeah, fuck you. What do you want? I don't care. And there's another place in Milwaukee. I think Ed DeBevick's does that too, where they're maybe not as drastic, but they're very candid with you.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Val Kilmer in his like guilt and his like his hatred towards the world, his restaurant after he gets divorced, maybe that's kind of the kind of environment that he's like establishes is like fuck you. Like if you want to come in, whatever, but we can treat you like shit. Like maybe we have that kind of restaurant
Yeah.
where whatever you want goes basically. No
Yeah.
no physical contact obviously, but we could talk to you however we want to talk to you.
Yeah.
The customer isn't always right. Like the customer's wrong. That's
Yeah.
like maybe their thing is like fuck you.
Yeah. Yes, dude.
Come to
Customer
brunch, fuck
wrong.
you.
You
Hey,
want
what do
Bloody
you want?
Mary?
Hey, what do you want? Fuck you. Yeah. Hey,
Not
fuck
gonna
off.
give
What do
you
you want?
a mimosa because it's you're a little bitch.
And that could add a different like element to it,
Yeah.
like a little bit of humor, and that gives you a lot more leeway with the characters and the bartenders and the servers, like just to be that
Yeah.
way. And then maybe you got a couple of nice guys in there who are like, "Hey, you're supposed to be mean to me." It's like, no, but I don't want to be mean. Like,
Yeah,
what
and
can
dude, I
I do
think
for
it's
you?
like even another level to this whole movie, like a log line or a part of the synopsis could be about this is a story about ideas and how and success. Sometimes the two don't go hand in hand. Sometimes being successful doesn't mean that you're successful. Your ideas could be successful because
Ah,
ultimately creates brunch, creates all this stuff, creates like the establishment where people talk shit to you when you eat, you know. But he ends up being like a bum at the end of the movie.
yeah,
But it was like even though he technically wasn't successful, his ideas were very successful.
yeah. You don't own your ideas. Your
You
ideas
don't own your ideas, yeah.
could be, but they could be successful. So he just ends up. Does he end getting fired from like his own place, or does he end just still being the same guy, like kind of like Lebowski style, where there's no change? throughout the whole movie. You meet him and then you leave him at the same place, really.
Yeah, it's like the whole bulk of the movie is the downfall. You see him change from being, you know, successful in his own mind and proactive and all that stuff. But then by the end of that story, he's a piece of shit. But in the beginning and the end, he's the same person. In the beginning and the end, he's just that guy in the back. And I could almost see him getting into some fight with like, you know, like the final scene could be him going out there. Because maybe at the beginning, okay, start over. In the beginning, the reason we see him is because somebody orders a Bloody Mary. And then the waiter comes, like the new waiter at the place, comes into the back and asks for a Bloody Mary. And it's just this weird scene where he's like, do you know how to make a Bloody Mary? It's like, do I know how to make a Bloody Mary? I fucking invented Bloody Marys. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm serious. I fucking invented Bloody Marys in 1996. And it's like, you know, the whole story.
Yeah.
And he's telling the whole story to this waiter. The whole movie is like, and maybe there is dialogue, like voiceover, but it's like this dude, Val Kilmer, telling this waiter, you know, he's in there to get a Bloody Mary, but in the process, as he's making this Bloody Mary, he's telling the story of the movie. So at the very end of the movie, he finishes making the Bloody Mary. And he's like, that's how you make a perfect Bloody Mary. And then he's like, and the waiter is just like, wow, oh my God. That's, you know, maybe he's like not even fazed by it. He's like, wow, some story that was. He like walks out. And then, and this almost like maybe there's that moment of change where Val Kilmer, like after just telling this whole story, it's like, you know what? Like in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I'm Rick fucking Dalton. You know what? My career is over. You know, maybe my career isn't over. Maybe things are looking up for me. And he's like, you know, flipping a burger or something. He starts like thinking, maybe he like looks in the mirror, like looks at himself. And then it's just as he's feeling good, the waiter comes back in with the Bloody Mary, and they said, "There's not enough hot sauce in this," or something. And then
they didn't like it. Yeah,
they didn't like it. And then he just snaps and just fucking like goes out there and just like storms out, like flip the table over, and he's like, "What the fuck? You don't like the fucking I quit. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck this." And he like tells the waiter, he's like, some like, you know, if you ever want to be successful, kid, make sure you fucking don't drink, and just like grabs a bottle of, you know, off the bar, just like storms out of the place with like, you know, Lebowski.
That's great. It has to end something like that for sure. Yeah, for sure.
They didn't like it. What the fuck? It's just like I like the contrast too of him just having that moment like,
yeah, this is okay. Everything's good.
Everything's gonna be okay. They didn't like it. Everything just comes. So it's like just teasing it. Like, yes, there is a change. Nope.
No. He's still the same motherfucker.
Still the same fucking person.
I feel like the beginning line could be somehow it could be just thinking about it in the whole arc is like the narration overboard over everything and him being like, brunch. I invented fucking brunch. Something like that. And then at the end, he comes out and he sees all these fucking trendy assholes after like somebody said that their Bloody Mary wasn't good, and he's like, brunch! I fucking invented brunch! And like smashes the Bloody Mary or something like that. And that's the end of it, to bring it all around. Yep. But he's like in the middle, like you said, I like that. He's like, yeah, like I did something, or like maybe there's a second chance for me, or I can make it again and not just be a
shit now. Like now that I think about it, that was actually a pretty good story.
Yeah. No. Then it comes. Then it's got to be the new server. It comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was too, or it could be a little bit more specific than that. Like he was talking about how he marinated a certain thing that went into the Bloody Mary earlier, and they're like, yeah, they don't like the thing that you marinated.
Yeah, like he cooks a steak and like pours the steak juice into the fucking.
Yeah, right. It's like it
has to be a New York strip steak cooked medium well.
He's talking about that. Yeah, it's like this is the most important aspect of the Bloody Mary. They come back. That's the one thing they don't like.
Yeah, I know.
Oh shit! Val Kilmer.
Did we start talking about that more specifically at brunch when we got into all that stuff? that
I don't
day.
remember. I don't
I don't
remember.
remember. It was somewhere in those days there. But it was
It
a little bit
was.
of a blur, but
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit blurry, but
that's a great fucking idea, though.
it's so fun. There's like a million things you could do in it, and then all the little characters you have can have little character arcs.
Oh yeah.
All the little stuff. But it's funny. Just Val Kilmer, just fucking. I feel like, and we can even like have him not even look like Val Kilmer, and he doesn't.
Yeah, like a full
You don't.
beat.
You don't fully realize that it's him.
Yeah.
Fucking Val Kilmer.
That was fucking Val Kilmer.
Invented brunch.
Yeah, Val Kilmer invented brunch, dude.
I could see Danny McBride in the kitchen though too. I feel like he could
Yeah.
be back there.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to go too. Like I said, every time you think of a movie like this, you think of Waiting, and you think of Dane Cook and Green Lantern. What's his fucking name?
Oh,
Like the fact that they were both in the movie and
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, like you just think of guys. It's like hard not to think of guys like that. And then the Hispanic guy who's in the kitchen, just like classic people. And then Jason Lee is his name? Not Jason Lee. The man.
Yeah, the guy from the Apple commercials.
Yeah. Like he was perfect for that. Like all those people, but it's like so hard not to think about those people when you think about that. But that plays to our advantage, I think, is because there hasn't been any other movies, big movies or cult movies that are restaurant based.
No, and that's a perfect one.
But Danny McBride, for sure, I could see in the kitchen, 100%. Like him and Val Kilmer bitching at each other would be great.
Yes.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I go back and forth on Danny McBride, but he is who he is, and he's hilarious sometimes. So
Go in the dictionary and look up the word idiot. What are you going to find? A picture of the word idiot? No, the definition of the word idiot, which you fucking are.
Yeah. Good old Gay Perry.
Gay Perry.
Oh, man. Cool. Well, that's great. That's a lot to work with for brunch, because that'll definitely be like these other ones, all of these ones. Mandala doesn't feel like a chore, but it just felt like we've been working on it for so long. It's just like the fountain thing. It's just like finish it.
Yeah.
Fucking finish. Just finish it. And we just want to like finish it. It's been 11 years.
Yeah. But the big changes with Mandala to the point where maybe it's not, I think it is maybe shorter, but at least it's like the story progresses more readily consistently. There were a lot of things in there that were just like building up the world that were mainly, I think, just trying to distract from shit.
And put cool stuff in there. A lot of that was just like, what can we make that's cool? Like a cool scene with like that building blowing up, or the 9/11 ritual thing, or the courthouse scene. And then there was a scene at the airport where a fucking van drove in and exploded. Like we put all this shit in there because it was like, that's cool, man. Yeah. But now we've realized like the bare bones, like we've gotten rid of all that stuff and kept all of the real quality Uncle Bruce stuff. Like the things that made Mandala are still there. We've just we've put meat on the bones, we've made it more human. We've modernized it like that.
Right.
That's almost 40 years ago now,
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's just, we've made it great again. And
yeah.
But at this point, it just seems like I'm chiseling a sculpture, for 10 years, where it's like I'm almost there, like the Statue of David, where I'm just smoothing out stuff.
Yeah.
And it's been working on it for forever. So it seems like a little bit of like, all right, here I go back to the office and chisel up some more things. But this brunch is like more, it'll be a good like fuck off project, like a let free and just like literally type for an hour and see what the fuck happens. I'm not going to be worrying about structure or anything like that. No. It just seems like a jerk off project, which is
there's not as much like psychological cerebral.
Nothing matters really. Like nothing. It could go in a million directions.
Yeah,
which is exciting. And whereas Mandala had so many things that were like placing perfectly, and then even the other script that I was doing, I was like trying to make sure the the structure was perfect and all this stuff. But this one's just like doodling, instead
Yeah.
of drawing something, which is,
Yeah.
I think I'm looking forward to that. So
Totally.
I'm gonna keep, getting your insight from it, even if it's random as fuck, like,
Oh yeah, no,
like if you go out to eat, like text me if you think of something, just
Yeah.
like having the layman's perspective, or even if you're sitting down with Steve Doyle and Mayer and just like shooting the shit, just like kind of throw a question out and see what they say about it,
okay, yeah, I
and
will.
just get that back to me, because all the perspectives are the best perspectives. It's
Mhm.
because everyone's gone out to eat, so everybody knows,
Yeah,
so I'm looking forward to that, just as a kind of a vacation while also doing work. But yeah, anything that comes to mind, let me know. And then Mandala, the zoetrope, which I'm really excited to send it into,
Yeah.
the zoetrope contest. Like, there's a chance. I'm sure Coppola only reads the 10 finalists, but
right.
there is a chance that this
You
man
might read it. Yeah,
there's a chance that this man might read the script. So that's incredible.
that's amazing.
So we're gonna keep. So the 5th is when that one is due. So I will. Oof, that's fucking soon. That is a week from for Thursday. So I will get this copy to you after I put this scene in and the other stuff we've talked about. If you could post this soon so I can review it. And,
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna download it. It's gonna take a while because it's like 4
Yeah.
hours.
But in the next couple of days would be
Yeah,
helpful. And then I need to
absolutely.
rewatch it, and then I'll implement the last notes. I'll go
Yes.
through it, and then I'll send it to you, and then you tell me what you think, and then think about it. Read it as if you were Francis Ford Coppola, and then we're gonna send that bitch in.
I will.
And then the next one, the one where we can, where I'm gonna pay to have the notes for it, is not due till November 30th. But I think this one is, when I found this, because I looked up the Coppola contest a couple months ago and they weren't up to date. They were a little bit lacking in their information, and then they finally, like, the window is really short. It's the smallest window of any other. I think it's just literally July to September, whereas the other ones are like from March to July or something like that. So,
Okay. Wow.
This one just excited me. It's only $50 to throw in there, and the fact that they send the top 10 finalists, they like send all the scripts to studios, like with a good word, being like, "Do you want to option this?" Like sending them out there. So they're almost acting as an agent for you.
Right.
So
So
there's thousands of people who send them in, but they're like,
might be good to double check to see if as long as the Writers Guild registration's up to date.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's 100% worth it. But they're obviously part of all that, and writers are very protective within each other. It's kind of like a very particular tribe, because we all get fucked constantly.
Yeah.
Or we will. They do. We will.
Right.
But I'm very excited to send it in this one, and I want to get it good, really, really good before that. So any thoughts you have, feel free to text them to me. Let's be in consistent communication. I'll definitely send it to you within the next couple of days, and then we'll make it so.
Great. I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a good one. I'm excited. I'm more excited about it than ever, really. I mean, I still got to upload that video of us wasted.
Oh, yeah, please do that.
We're sitting there in suits, just like.
I think I might have the audio of that.
Yeah.
I've
got like 2 video files of it. I've got one that was streaming from Zoom.
Okay, we were streaming it live?
No, yeah, not live.
How ambitious of us.
Yeah, I know. And then there's the camera angle that I had, like, up on the top or whatever.
From the window?
Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
It was like by the door.
Oh, it was by the door. Okay.
Yeah, like by where
I don't remember that.
Right of the TV.
Oh,
yeah. Shit. I stumbled across it recently and like started looking at it.
Do you have any idea how long it is?
It's like 3 or something hours.
Oh shit! It's amazing.
It's sloppy by the end, dude.
That's amazing.
That's the night before we fucking had brunch.
Yes, it was. Where I bought 3
Yeah.
bottles of wine, I think.
But reason I brought it up is because there's a clip that I happened to scroll into where I was just like, this is the most excited I've been about this movie in like 10 years. And it's like, even if, and you're like, if they play that fucking song in the beginning of Captain Marvel,
Oh yeah.
we have to fucking make this movie. I'm like, we have to fuck.
And then you were like,
Yeah, I was like, yeah, well, we have to make this movie either way.
regardless.
Or it was something like that. Or it was like, it's like this
yeah,
whole thing is making me want to make the movie even more anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, all this stuff combined, I'll upload this video. Definitely send me what you got. Even if you want to send me stuff before then, if it's not complete, totally feel free. I'll talk brunch with my friends. Get back to you.
Please do, man. All perspectives welcome. That's not on a timeline at all. So
no.
As it comes for that one, but yeah, we're gonna. The 12th draft of Mandala is by far the best, and people are actually gonna read it, even if it is just a fucking intern at Zoetrope.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. This is gonna be the first time someone outside of our circle has read it.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference, but it's gonna be the best version it's ever been. So I'll send it to you as soon as I can. You read it, we'll figure it out, and then we'll send it out into the ether and drink a lot of Coppola wine for good vibes.
Yeah, I'll have to get some. I'll drink as soon as it's submitted. I'll only drink Coppola wine as a ritual.
Good for us. Well, great shit, man. This just kind of streamed into control, which I really, really enjoyed. So thanks for taking the time out and hanging out with me, which we're very good at. So
yeah, there's no time out. There's never a timeout. I appreciate it, John. We have great. This is a great catch up after a while, and let's as we get closer, since the deadline's coming up soon, we'll do another one.
Let's do at least one more. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I love you, man. Great times as always.
I love you too, dude. Yeah, thanks again for making it happen. I'm really happy for you being in LA. Good luck on everything, and you're doing a lot of the grunt work for the both of us. So,
and we're each doing a lot of the grunt work for both of us. So this is where it's a team. So we're on point. So that's good.
Right. So
we're in time. We're in touch.
We're in touch. We're on time. Agreed.
We're in touch and on time today.
Satellites are being released into the outer atmosphere.
Yep.
So they'll be aligned very soon.
Satellite
in my eye, like a diamond in the sky. Oh, I wonder. Maybe Lilith can play that at the beginning instead of
yeah. Satellite.
Barnhart will be like, "Is this fucking Dave Matthews, man?"
Fucking Dave Matthews. I thought we had him killed. I thought we had the memory of Dave Matthews erased from the world 3 years ago.
And then we'll have Lascala in the crowd like, "Yeah, bro,
dude, the fucking sound of this place. Fucking smoke blunts, 2 lines."
I just want to grip and live in the valley, man.
Grip, live in the valley.
All right, man.
Good times, man. Give Mac and Abigail a big hug for me.
I will. They'll be loving it. In touch. In time. Who needs music, bro? Who needs music?
Yeah, I know. And when I get that piano down for that song, I'll send it to you. I'll be so excited.
Please do. I have a very dusty
table
back there. Oh, shit.
All right, man. Well, soon enough. Soon enough.
Love you, man. Have a good night. We'll talk soon.
Yep, we'll talk soon, man. For everyone that watched this far, you're fucking awesome. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Later.